towards the Niki Lauda curve, bumping and banging and into the wall. That is a horrible crash.
2 wide now, door to door. Max Verstappen to Vanderdantis. Max Verstappen able to safely rejoin. Slots it right in front of another car.
Carousel immediately, he gets punted off. That was Saavedra. Aguilar, he's gone off. He's been tapped and he's into the barriers. Oh, the rejoin. Oh, no.
Dean. Oh, Pedro, Dean.
Oh, Chris Lawson does have the inside track for the Swiss left. If he's able to make that pass happen, he might be able to cut away Victorino. He does make that pass, and he makes it clean, and they're coming to the right hand, and this is it. Chris Lawson seizes the opportunity and makes it. And just as the end, the rain comes to put a pin onto the end of the race, and Chris Lawson takes it.
Miranda Pedro Zuma into the wall.
It's actually Valero. Valero's actually gone off into the barriers, coming up to the cutting.
David Todd making his way back up, has already climbed 7 positions.
Oh, it's supposed to be soon there. Sandy goes up.
So right now, this is going to be where it's going to get shaken up. David Todd passes them while they are in the pit through the mountain straight now, going 3 wide.
Oh my word, that is probably one of the best shows of the entire season.
So we have 3-way battle going to the most dangerous turn of the mountain. Up the mountain, we have contact right there. These guys going absolutely crazy. It's going to come down to the final corner, Murray's corner. Who is going to have to lead? We may have a drag race to the finish line on our hands, folks. You see David Todd right now going into the pit lane.
racing for heat number 1 here in Austria. Over AMX20 in towards the nicking outer curve, bumping and banging and into the wall. That is a horrible crash. That's a huge lunge from Gaston Calabi, and he's made contact with, I believe, oh wow, it's a chaotic moment here. And slipstream in front for either car, and you can just see Petra Silva pushing Florian Lamigra right over.
Here we go then, Valeri, he looks left, he looks right, he's going to tune to the right hand side, which is the inside going into turn 3.
Here it is. This is the crucial moment in this race. It's looking like it's only going one way. David Dott is going to take the race lead. Heading into the second half of the season, the Hungarian of David Dott has driven a masterclass here with the early pit stop. Not the ideal strategy, but an ideal race winner and an excellent performance.
To save our home, we must travel through the gateway to find new energy.
A tale as old as motorsport itself, drivers pushing fast vehicles to their absolute limits among the UK courses. Everyone, welcome back to Season 6, AMX10 of the Sim Racing World Championship, where we're out at our United Kingdom racetracks today in the beloved TCR class. I am Kevin, and joining me alongside today is Amir. Amir, as we begin our journey on our AMX10 World Tour, we got to see some great races. It's been a great premiere of the season so far. What are you hoping that we get to see out of these drivers pushing these TCR cars to the limit today?
Oh, absolutely. I think you took the words right out of my mouth on that one. Definitely, it's going to be door-banging action all the way, because two circuits that we saw just now, Silverstone and Snetterton, they're part of the BTCC calendar, and we know those provide some great action, and I can't wait to see how this one goes after yesterday's pair of races, which were absolute barnstormers.
Definitely. And for all of you watching live on the stream, make sure you follow all of our social media on the screen, as well as going to AMXrace.com. You can get the full schedule, all of the details, as well as get yourself signed up to race. But before we check on our beginning of our AMX10 journey, we have a few different things going on. So like we mentioned, this season, bringing back AMX10, we're here. Started up yesterday, September 7th, going all the way through November 17th with this season's prize pool of $11,000 plus next level racing gear. Our race format goes as follows for the AMX10 races. We have a 20-minute qualifier going into a top 15 reverse grid, followed by heat 1 of 30 minutes into that second top 15 reverse grid, and finally a second heat of 30 minutes. For all of our drivers out there on the field, your driver cams are required. You can get the link via our AMX Discord or on the website. Payouts are done in balances over $100 paid out every single month. So once you hit that threshold, expect that money headed your way. This season, we are here every single Saturday and Sunday. And like I mentioned earlier, if you want to get signed up to race, make sure to head over to AMXrace.com and get in on the action. Our schedule's a little bit different this season. Starting off yesterday, we got to kick off AMX 0, which will be on Saturdays at 5:40 p.m., followed by AMX 5 at 7:10 p.m. And today, AMX 10 will be starting at 5:50 p.m., followed by a second race at 7:30 p.m. And on the opposite weeks, we will be having the AMX 15 Mini Enduros, which will be starting at 5:50 p.m. GMT. So for our race prize pool out here, we got $15 going to the person that qualifies fastest. Second place gets 10, third place gets 9, and we're going all the way down into 15th place. And going into heat number 1 and heat number 2, it will be the same prize pool for all of the drivers out there, totaling to a $500 prize pool per race. And for the AMX10 races, you have to have a minimum I rating of 3,000. But speaking of being out in the UK today we're out in the heart of racing, one of the world's most iconic countries, the United Kingdom, known for its rich tapestry of history, breathtaking landscapes, and unmistakable landmarks. The UK is the place where the past meets the present in a way that few other nations can match. Just look at these awe-inspiring shots.
Oh, certainly, Kevin. You can see there from the bustling streets of London to, after this, the serene countryside. You can see that's Tower Bridge, and then the Gherkin in the middle of the metropolitan area, right up to the high streets. But then you have the complete opposite, somewhere in the Midlands or somewhere up north, where you have something like this, for example, Stonehenge. It really is a big country of contrast, whether it's just the towering arches of the Bell End Viaduct to the endless green fields and the picturesque side of the Great River Ouse winding through Bedfordshire. And after that, you can see here the white cliffs of Dover, as inspired by Eric Johnson's Cliffs of Dover song, right up to the really beautiful countryside all the way here. That's the Bell End Viaduct, as we mentioned before. But apart from that, Kevin, it is an absolutely brilliant sight to behold.
Oh, absolutely. And while we know UK is renowned for its culture and history, absolutely renowned for this place here, Silverstone Motor Speedway out here, Silverstone Circuit. Man, this is one of the most iconics from grassroots karting. Formula One, the UK has produced some of the most iconic drivers and the most iconic racing motorsports history. But this is where we begin our journey today. Silverstone UK, which opened back in 1948 with a length of 2.63 kilometers. So we're out here, a few different layouts for today's race. We're going to be running a little bit shorter in the national circuit.
And now taking over for the car info, well, we also just now saw at the beginning of the program, this is what we're going to have for today in AMX10. It's a really great helping of the TCR class. Difference in power about 315 to 350 horses, but of course, like in the GT4 and GT3 classes, this has BOP, so every single car is more or less equal. Front wheel drive, about 1.2 to 1.5 tons, and as the drivers and folks in the comments have done by now, is flappy bedded gearboxes on the steering wheel, so the drivers don't have to take their hands off. They can grip it all the way and provide some bare knuckle brawls on the racetrack here, Kevin.
Absolutely, and I expect nothing less from the drivers out here. We've got to see the TCR vehicles the last couple of seasons produce some of the closest racing, some of the most iconic moments out here for AMX. And I know getting started today, heading on our world tour out here at the UK between Silverstone and Snetterton, it's going to be absolute brawls left and right, lap one all the way to the checkered flag. But here we're going to go into qualifying. Yeah, checking up on our drivers. I already see a few people out there, a lot of fan favorites, a lot of AMX veterans. But I don't know if it's too early to call this, but Amir, do you have anyone that you're out there think you might take this one home today?
Ooh, it's going to be hard to bet against Valero, isn't it? Valero was on form yesterday with 2 heat wins, making it a triple crown because he also actually got fastest time in F4 around Sachsenring, but he only missed out on just 1 fastest lap. Otherwise, he would have had a complete clean sweep. Meanwhile, we're looking at his fellow countryman, Corentin Guinness, coming through Cops right now. This is also another guy to watch out for. So the 2 Frenchmen are just some of the finest exponents in touring cars. You were definitely going to be watching out for them here, Kevin.
Absolutely, and I'm just looking at the timing screen as well. Jackson Asenge, Mauricio Lozano, Bruno De Carmo. We have so many people out here that we've seen in past seasons. And like you said, up at the top, Corentin Guinness from the SimRC team. Definitely, this is his bread and butter. One of the best TCR drivers in the world, not just in AMX, but we get to see him anytime that there's some iRacing special events going on. I know we've seen out at the Nürburgring 24 hours. We've seen at Daytona 24 hours. At these such special events, definitely getting to see a lot of these guys shine, not only the ones that are on the top of the timing screen. But speaking of the timing board, for everyone watching at home live, you can go ahead and scan the QR code on the screen, be able to follow the timing along with us up here in the booth.
Certainly, and it would really just earmark those drivers that we can tell will do the business. And right now, Guinness is one of those guys who's really bustling at the top here. He's the only driver in the 1 minute right now, 1 minute 0.8, about 2/10 faster than Dino Filippa, and a further couple of hundreds faster than Valero. So really, then he's getting the ground running here in the very first round that he's doing. Meanwhile, we're watching Gonzalo Fabi, one of the many Argentines that have come through the ranks in iRacing. Really glad that some of the familiar names are back here for this season too.
And in comparison to previous seasons as well, it's looking like we have a pretty decent spread out there today. Looking like most of the manufacturer is a lot of Hyundai cars out there, but we also have a few Audis, a few Honda Civics out there in the mix. So definitely going to be a good balance of performance out today. Out here, like we said, today running not the entire course of Silverstone, but we're running the national circuit. So with the main course of Silverstone, it's a little bit longer, coming in just about, let's see, I believe almost 6 kilometers long. So the entire one that we see, the Grand Prix course, not being ran today. We're running the shorter course, which is about half the length, coming in about 2.6 kilometers roughly, about 1.6 miles. So a lot of these, there's only 6 turns to this entire layout out here today, so it's definitely going to be a tight one, as we can already see these drivers getting nearly a 1 minute flat towards the top of that. Corentin Guinness as well as Victor Miranda already into the 1 minute, so under, I'd say under 1 second of difference between most of the drivers out on the field today, Amir.
Absolutely, and given the fact that it's such a short circuit, so anybody that's beyond that 1 second gap, you really have to start questioning if something's actually wrong with their car or equipment, because in a short circuit it's really hard to find time. So when they're compact together, it really shows that the drivers got the bit between their teeth to just get it up into the very close lap times here. But I think, yeah, 9/10 of a second from first all the way to last. Really close. We cannot cut it any closer than that.
And especially out here with the onboard lap on the number 738 of Reales. So that's one thing I've been loving to see, a lot of familiar faces, but we've been starting to see some newcomers come out here as well, as now we're going into turn 3, into Maggots. And now this is where the track deviates from the normal Grand Prix layout. Instead of going Maggots into Beckett's, they go there, turn number 3, coming back down a long straight. So we should expect to see a lot of overtaking opportunities come down here, as at the end of the straight we have a tight left-hander into nearly almost a hairpin right-hander. So right here into Brooklyn's turn number 4 out here in this configuration, and then turn 5 of Luffield back onto the home straight. So a little bit different layout out here. I think that's really what these drivers are still getting used to. I know a lot of these drivers run the Grand Prix route, so really just trying to adapt to today's course layout.
Yep. And given the fact that it comes through halfway here through Meccans and Beckett's, it will be interesting to see what kind of lines they would take, because it's so wide in the entry as opposed to just being single line when you go through the full Grand Prix layout. It really becomes a matter of whether or not you can get the car just squared in and get on the throttle as soon as you can. Yes, it's front wheel drive, but you just have to get it as soon as possible when you're really comfortable. Otherwise, you might just actually step out a bit like that for a second and really scupper your lap time.
Yeah, definitely one thing about these that we've seen in the past, especially in the TCR vehicles, is you do not want to burn through those tires. You have to keep it extremely smooth through these cars. So with not a ton of downforce, just having that front splitter and rear wing in comparison to something like an open wheel car, these guys definitely relying a lot more on that mechanical grip and those front tires to just pull them around. But what we got to see earlier there, Dino Filippa, like you mentioned, just that hard braking into some of these turns, definitely going to make that back end start to kick around just a little bit. We got to see that in something else yesterday in the MX5 Cup cars, another car that is one of those a lot lower downforce and definitely relying on that mechanical grip. So these drivers having to drive it a little bit different out here today. Like we said, we have a few TCR specialists out on the grid, as well as a few other guys that are a little bit lower on the pole. But speaking of people that we haven't seen in a while, Amir, out here, Aaron Vasquez, it's always good to see him back on track. Of course, we've seen him in previous seasons, one of our champions from a couple seasons ago, and now out here for Apex Racing this time around.
Yeah, it's one of those big moves that we saw in the middle part of the season where Vasquez actually just swapped allegiances and went to the very same team as Valero. So that will actually mean a lot of knowledge and expertise shared together, especially when they're trying to extract more performance out of whatever race they're doing. And certainly for Vasquez to be in the same stable as Valero, who's just capable of driving anything, it's gonna be really beneficial for him.
Definitely. And speaking of that, so like we said, a lot of times out here we get to see plenty of the top teams. I know we get a lot of the Delinte Esports drivers, Gael Valero, of course, from Apex Racing, Team Redline, SimRC, Race Clutch. So plenty of top teams out here that we get to see out in AMX week in and week out. And speaking of Delinte, here is Victor Miranda, who is still sitting in third place with a 1 minute 0.994. So only 3 people still to get under 1 minute 1 second. But Amir, I know things are absolutely going to heat up. It is one thing that we got to see yesterday for you to set a fast lap time. It's another thing to be able to come out here and win the race.
Oh, definitely. Especially look at this, a stacked field of drivers that are way above the minimum I rating. You know you're in for a tough one here if you're starting from P15 like Dino Filippa right now. Only just 200s ahead of Guinness. And you can see there again, thanks to our production team behind the scenes, they show how much I rating they got. And again, averages are way above the 3K mark. So this is going to be quite a tough field to drive. And certainly with TCR cars being so specific in the way you drive them, it's going to be quite a spectacle to watch on track, I'm pretty sure, Kevin.
Absolutely. And I'm just looking at the timing screen as well, seeing a few people that are out here. We have, of course, Diego Villarreal, Evandro Dantas, down towards the bottom of the timing screen. So a lot of these drivers, although everyone wants to set the fastest qualifying lap time, a lot of these guys just want to be able to get into that 15th place position or better. Like we said, a top 15 reverse grid. So right now, Mauricio Lozano, Bruno DeCarmo, those guys kind of sitting on the bubble just right outside of that top 15 reverse grid. So they're definitely going to start feeling the pressure as we have just under 3 minutes left in qualifying. We have to see what these guys can do. Aaron Vasquez out here too, currently sitting in 13th position, trying to get a bit of improvement on his lap time. But like we said, right now officially the gap is under 1 second between all of the drivers out here, with the majority of them all the way to 17th place being about half a second and under.
Ooh. Can you imagine that? The stress levels for those drivers getting up, and I'm pretty sure those guys who are outside of it, they know they have the lap time in them. It's just that it's hard to break through right now with how close these guys are. Even just a 10th is enough to launch you right up into that top 10 if you're in outside of it. So really, it's very close here among those guys. As someone is asking what flag is that, well, that's actually based on iRacing Club. So for Araujo, for example, that's actually Iberia, whereas Simon de Mori, that's a mix of Germany, Austria, and Switzerland because they are part of the same regions, kind of like Benelux, for example. So it's an iRacing Club thing, but you can choose to run either one of your own countries or you can be part of a club. That's why you have those kind of weird mix of flags.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Simone de Mori also showed up yesterday for our grand premiere out in AMX5. Did a pretty good job out there, but just getting a little bit unlucky on a couple places. Yesterday, we had plenty of incidents going on all day long, especially once we got to the F4 vehicles. We were out there as well in the MX5 Cup cars. But right now, Corentin Guinez, it's a battle back and forth between him and Dino Filippa. So a few of the drivers out here, speaking of Dino Filippa as well, Simone de Mori, there's several people out here racing in real life, out here racing in the sim, and no matter where they are, whatever car they're behind the wheel of, seem to be absolutely dominant towards the top of the leaderboards every single time.
Yeah, certainly. As a couple of Twitch comments are coming through, so yep, we're keeping in mind on the Twitch comments now as well, as a couple of drivers being cheered on here, especially those of the Argentinian inclination. You can see there about 6 of them in the top 10 alone in qualifying, so you can tell that they're very competitive, and touring car racing is part of their veins. Remember, one of the most popular touring car series in the whole of South America comes from Argentina besides Stock Car Brazil, and that's TC2000. We had actually, if not mistaken, a couple of TC2000 drivers competing in AMX before, but forgot their names at this point in time. But honestly, that's just the level of talent that's being unearthed here through AMX. We can see so many great sporting nations having great motorsports drivers too.
As well like that, and as the time comes to a stop, we are pretty much through with our qualifying. Of course, Dino Filippa, Corentin Guinez, and Gael Valero sitting atop the leaderboards for our qualifying. Dino Filippa, we got to see a shot of him a few seconds ago, just happier than ever with the beautiful backdrop of London here as we wait on our official results. But another name that I was looking in there, Fabrizio Balziti from Voracious Racing Team. Haven't seen him in a couple of seasons. I know a lot of guys from Voracious were here a couple seasons ago, now making it back. But there is your BenQ session winner, Dino Filippa, with a 1 minute .853, absolutely blazing it around at the national layout today. In second place, Corentin Guinez. Third, Gael Valero. Fourth place, Victor Miranda. Fifth, Gonzalo Fabi. Sixth, Fabrizio Balziti. Seventh, Marcelo Reales. Eighth, Tobias Soriano. Ninth, Pedro Dean. 10th, Juan Blainat. 11th, Simone de Mori. 12th, Jackson Usenje. 13th, Aaron Vasquez. 14th, Gaston Culavi. And rounding out your top 15 reverse grid, Ayrton Reutemann sitting on that 15th place. So unfortunately, Mauricio Lozano, Bruno De Carmo, Miguel Araujo, a couple other guys not making that reverse grid. They're going to have to start from all the way in the back.
Yeah, especially for De Carmo after what happened yesterday at the Saxon Ring. Definitely will want to just make amends for that one and immediately come back fighting. But we know how much of a fighter he is. We can see how last season he came to blows with a couple of drivers on the way to victory, but for the most part, the wins that he had were really, really clean. So we'll see if he can do the same thing here. Now, we're going to head into the first heat here, Kevin.
Definitely. And speaking of Bruno De Carmo, so he is one of those guys that you see a lot more specialized in the rear-wheel drive vehicles, stuff with a little bit more downforce. So like I said, just these vehicles being front-wheel drive, definitely shaking things up for a lot of these top drivers out here today. But now we have the drivers finishing their gridding, awaiting to go green here, moments away. Race number 1 of AMX10. It's going to be a good one as the drivers are revving up their engines and the green flag is off. So here we go with the outstanding start from Ayrton Reutemann and Gaston Culavi, definitely making it known. Ayrton Reutemann doing what he can to get away from the pack right away into turn number 1.
Yep, what a launch actually. Not often that you get drivers being good off the line in front wheel drive cars. You really have to just feather the throttle and hope to high heaven that the wheel spin doesn't cause the car to bog. But that's a very good start from Reutemann. Look at that, 1.2 seconds ahead already, coming around to the first couple of corners as the rest of the field then, all 20 drivers, it looks as though a very clean start.
Absolutely, and seeing a lot of these drivers out here already. A couple people up, a couple positions up, one place, but we're going to be out here for roughly 30 minutes, 29 laps out here in each heat race, so we have plenty of time for the grid to be changing. So far, so good for a lot of these drivers. Like we said, this is a very tight layout of this course. We're not using the full Grand Prix out here at Silverstone today. And right now it is Aaron Vasquez already looking to try and do what he can to defend off Gaston Culavi. Jackson Asenji right behind him in third. And we have Ayrton Reutemann still with the commanding lead over 1 second already over the rest of the drivers. So we'll have to see if Reutemann is able to hold on to this going in through the rest of the laps. Like we said, there's still plenty of time. It's still anyone's game.
Yep, absolutely, Kevin. Still anybody can actually win this race if something were to happen to the guys up in front here. But Reutemann, though, you have to say again, hats off to him. That was a blinder of a start. Really got off the line quite well and made his dues early here. But remember, lap 1 is one thing. Now he has to do the rest of the 27 laps that we have remain to just clinch this one. He'll probably be wishing that the guys behind will start fighting. Certainly, if Aaron Vasquez gets involved, we can look further behind here. The Mori, Miranda, Reales fighting, while Belziti is up in front here. It's just slightly catching up to Soriano. So it's ebbing and flowing between a lot of these drivers, but everybody is settling in now.
Absolutely, and we already see everyone out in chat already cheering on their favorite drivers out here. We have people saying, Vamos, Ayrton Reutemann. That's who they're cheering on. I know a lot of times too we see, well, plenty of Aaron Vasquez fans as well. I know we got a lot of the Brazilians out here too cheering on their drivers. A lot of guys, especially from Delinte Esports. I think they might have the biggest fan base out here for AMX aside from Team Redline. It's kind of a back and forth between those two teams of when we see everyone out in chat cheering them on, out watching the streams. But nonetheless, right now, still lap number 3, Ayrton Reutemann leading over Aaron Vasquez in second and Gaston Culavi in third.
Yes, and it looks as though Reutemann's early advantage has whittled away now because look, Vasquez is ready to come to play here, coming through love fields, nearly up to the back of the rear there as Poco Prata, one of our regular contributors from Brazil on the Twitch chat, Bora Delinte, so he's cheering on the Delinte Tony Canan guys here, but at the moment, the fastest one right now is Jackson Resende. He is in fourth behind Culavi and Vasquez as faster lap goes to Culavi. Coming up to Cops again, it looks as though Reutemann's got everything covered for now, but if he starts defending going narrow, he might make a mistake here because, again, we reiterated before, touring cars don't like to break narrow. You have to actually follow a very wide line to prevent those cars locking up.
And coming into here so far, I think a lot of drivers playing it very safe out here, trying to drive very smart. We haven't really seen anyone trying to pull any dive bombs out here. But like I said, I expect them to get a little bit more aggressive as the laps go on. Once that pressure starts going of, you know, there's a moment as a driver you kind of think, all right, it's now or never. I either need to just really put my foot into the throttle and get everything I can. Ooh. But at the risk of maybe some tire wear. Like I said, definitely that's one thing that we've seen a few different tracks, but out here being roughly 30-minute races on each, we'll have to see if these drivers have their tire wear coming into effect out here. As now we see Jackson Asenji falling down into the pit lane as well as Victor Miranda. So we might have to catch up what happened with them.
I think that's a jump start. Maybe it's a jump start because look at that. Even Miranda, so both Brazilians, part of the Tony Canan stable, have actually fallen into that trap of getting a good launch off the line, but it was on false pretenses. So unfortunately for them, they've done the drive-through, but they've dropped all the way back to 19th and 20th respectively. That's going to be a long rest of the race for them.
Yeah, definitely looking at them. Well, at least that gives us a good idea of the pit stop. So only about 5.5 second delta if anyone has to make a pit stop. So although that does send them all the way back through the back of the field, you know, one of the other things that may have been confusion, what we changed up for AMX5 and as well as we have some of our endurance races is during those ones, the drivers are required to take a mandatory pit stop. But however, for this race, these drivers are not required to during this 30-minute race. So I'm not sure if there may have been a bit of miscommunication there as well, as now we see another driver as well, Toby Soriano. So I think, you know, either as many people that are going into the pits, I'm not sure if that might be what's happening now, as that's already 3 different drivers, make that 4 different drivers in the pits.
I think that might be a jump start as well, actually, to be honest, because as far as we know, if you cut the track in iRacing, they'll give you a penalty and you'll have to just back off and really let the time burn away. So these guys might have been the ones that jumped the start a bit. So we'll get to the bottom of that, I'm pretty sure. As now, back up to the front, Vasquez bumps the back of Reutemann, so he's letting him know he's there. They're all in equal machinery right now because they're all driving the Hyundai Velosters up in front here. As further behind, this is Valero going on the inside, Reales side by side through Lovefield, and you do not want to be hung dry here because after that the guys behind actually will try to pick up the pieces as more and more drivers are coming through. I think this might not be an isolated incident. This might just be a case of drivers coming through to complete some mandatory stuff because again, it will be almost impossible for half the grid to literally jump the start.
Yeah, looking out here too. I mean, really the only ones that we got to see out here is a lot of these drivers, some of them going to the pits too. I don't see any off tracks for them either. So no penalties out that. So you might just have to see, like I said, there's just a bit of miscommunication. But nonetheless, right now, it's left Ayrton Reutemann still in the lead, Aaron Vasquez in second, and Gaston Kulavi in third place. So I think some of these guys out here on the team members will have to see if they're telling them, hey, go ahead and take a pit stop, maybe not take a pit stop. But either way, nonetheless, definitely these guys at least will have a second heat to go out here. I think that's going to change things up as well, though, for some of the drivers that are towards the back of the pack now. So pretty much we've already had about 6 drivers hit the pits, one of those being Juan Blenat, who now sits in 15th place. So if he's able to hold on to that, he'll be getting pole position for the next heat.
Yeah, it's so... Blenat is actually leading those guys. In fact, you can see the stop counter actually goes up. So that means they would have, if there was a mandatory pit stop, which it isn't, they will be granted mandatory reprieve on that one. Though it looks as though that it's not just the Spanish speakers that got involved in that one. The Argentines is the Portuguese speakers too. Resende, Miranda, and the Brazilians involved in here too. So maybe there's some miscommunication about the pit stops, but they didn't stop at their boxes. They literally went for a drive-through. So maybe there was a jump start penalty as well that we might have missed because we saw, apart from Reutemann, who had a rocket launch of a start, everybody else seemed to have fallen in line. So we'll probably get to the bottom of that in post-race coverage. But really, it's so weird to see at least 1/5 of the field, a quarter of the field entering into the pits.
Yeah, but right here we get to see a great battle going on in the middle of the field. Your 2 top qualifiers out here, Dino Filippa and Corentin Guinez, sitting in 7th and 8th place, respectively, setting the fastest and second fastest lap in qualifying. So we'll have to see where these drivers can do. We've already seen right now from the likes of Dino Filippa up 8 places from where he started on the grid, as well as one of your defending champions, Gael Valero, up 8 places as well. So Ayrton Reutemann, although he didn't do the best in qualifying, he has taken advantage of being the pole sitter out here in heat number 1.
Yep, certainly he took full advantage of being up in front, plus that amazing launch off the line, which counted as a legal start, by the way, so he didn't go into the pit lane for any sort of technicalities. He had a good start, but at this point in the race, coming out to lap 10, it looks as though that early pace may have faded slightly, or maybe he's just, as you said, Kevin, he's taking care of those front tires. He doesn't want to burn it out too much, otherwise he will suffer towards the end.
Definitely, and so right here we are lap 9 of 29, and the lead has still not changed. Still a great job out here. However, Aaron Vasquez has gone up 1 position, Gaston Kulavi, so those guys have switched positions from where they were earlier on. But right here, Aaron Vasquez absolutely putting the pressure onto Ayrton Reutemann. So both of these guys, absolutely amazing drivers. But Aaron Vasquez, we've seen time and time again, once he really feels comfortable, really starts learning the track, he is going to make you fight for your position. He's going to do whatever it takes to get in front. And if he's able to get in front early on in the race, Amir, I have a good feeling that he may just start pulling away. But he's going to have to get in front of Ayrton Reutemann first to do that.
And he has to time his move correctly, though, Kevin, because if he makes a botch move, then it will be all for naught for the effort that he's put up at this point to be up in P2. As further behind, you can see, well, in the timing screen at least, and you can scan that on the QR code, by the way, to find out how that's going. But the live timing tower on the left, you saw just now a few maneuvers being done as it looks as though Dino Filippa is the next driver to come to the pit. Under mysterious circumstances, you can hear a bit of a time coming in as you can hear Filippa goes to the pit. So really weird right now how we got these pit stops coming in, but either way, besides the point, few moves happening in between. We saw Kulhavi and Valero switching positions for a bit, so it looks as though the battles we had from last season are still unresolved. As you can see there, Demori and Fabian next to come to blows here, as a poor exit from Vasquez has allowed Kulhavi to come into the battle here.
And it looks like Aaron Vasquez was trying to hold the grip on the outside line, but just those tight turns right there, just not allowing him to really get the advantage that he wanted. So he's just going to have to slot back in line. That's one thing with this layout. It is really hard to make passes out here. I think it's going to come down to the drivers in front just trying to make opportunistic moves if someone in front of you makes that mistake. So I think really right now the smart thing from Aaron Vasquez would be to be as patient as you can and really just put that pressure on Reutemann, hang on to the back of his bumper until he makes a mistake.
Yeah, but again, it looks as though he'll have to force Reutemann to go narrow, because we saw just now, a lap ago, he did defend for a bit, just managed to grab the car through the corner by doing a bit of dabbing on the brakes to just pitch the car in and help it through to defend that time around. And he's doing the same thing again here by braking mid-corner to just get his car settled, but also stalling Vasquez a bit. And that's working out a treat here, because Vasquez is now under pressure from Kulhavi, and we know how hard he can fight for position. Let's see if he can actually just dive one here coming through Brooklands in front of BRDC Clubhouse. Nope, no way through just yet. And it is also a case, the same thing here when BTCC come. It's almost impossible to get an overtaking maneuver done because there's so many flowing corners. There's no particular braking zone that you can try to outbrake somebody.
Yeah, and really, I think the hard part for Aaron Vasquez as well is knowing that he has Gaston Kulhavi right behind him as well. So maybe some of the more opportunistic moves that he would try to force, he's being a little bit more hesitant, because if he doesn't pull off that move right, he's going to leave the door wide open for Gaston Kulhavi to take that second place position. But now in the picture-in-picture, we also see a battle going on there for 5th place as well. Corentin Guinez, there's about a 1 second gap between 4th and 5th places. Now Aaron Vasquez making the move over Erjan Reutemann. So finally, he goes, he peaks, and he's able to get that move done. And now Erjan Reutemann is going to be on the chase for the win out here in heat number 2.
Well, just as the comment for Reutemann coming in, Dale Reutemann, there goes Vasquez up in front, because Vasquez, it was very opportunistic. He saw Reutemann going wide coming up the cops. He did the move cleanly without too much respite in terms of pace. But you can see there, Reutemann tries to come back here against Vasquez. That's the sort of move that I was thinking Reutemann was going to try to do. He did, but it kind of stalled his momentum a bit, and in turn also just made Vasquez lose a bit of drive out of Brooklands into left field. No, it didn't affect both of them that much, because Kulhavi couldn't get a drive either.
Definitely, and so now we're getting to see, especially out there in the TCR, I think the first time that I got to see Aaron Vasquez just being absolutely dominant out on the track was during this year's iRacing 24-hour event. So that was back before I was out here with you guys out at AMX, before I was even in the commentary booth, just saying, hey, you know what, this iRacing thing looks pretty cool. I'm going to check it out, and I'm going to watch the 24 Hours of Daytona, see where these guys finish. And Aaron Vasquez, one of the top finishers, as well as Gael Valero in that race, doing absolutely amazing. So these guys are definitely no strangers to the TCR cars. They only keep getting better and better. And Aaron Vasquez out here, one of the few drivers over 10,000 iRating. We have a few guys out in the 9,000s, 8,000s, and so on. Aaron Vasquez right now about 11,000, over almost 12,000 iRating. So we can see there the incident in the corner of Juan Blanat. Just, ooh, that one looked like a nasty one right there as well.
Yeah, involved in one of the Delinte cars. He was on the inside. He was losing control. He did plow his way through by just smashing the throttle, because again, front-wheel drive cars, the best way to recover from an oversteer moment is to just match the throttle. It would just straighten himself up. He did, but then he went to the path of one of those Delinte cars and just unfortunately got T-boned out of there. And judging by that, it looks like Blanat has been affected greatly by that. He's dropped to 19th now, so he's going to have his work cut out for the second heat, as now, halfway point here, it looks as though, once again, despite the battles that we had earlier, it's all just settling into somewhat of a boilerplate moment now. And
one thing, correct myself from earlier, I was like, I forgot, it's not the TCR cars that run in the 24 hours. Those cars aren't even in that race. It was the 2.4 hours, the roar before the 24 when I first seen these guys out in the TCR cars. But Along with that, though, out here today, it's been absolutely great ride so far. I mean, we've got to see a lot of these guys, a couple of champions, of course, Gael Valero, Aaron Vasquez, both of those guys being absolutely amazing. Out here, Corentin Guinez, Gaston Culavi, Ayrton Reutemann, a lot of guys also wanting to be in that championship spot this yearly on in the season. So one thing we're talking about yesterday is once you start having that momentum from winning races, that momentum just carries on throughout the rest of the season. One thing we got to see from Gael Valero being extremely consistent, and out here today already up 9 positions into 4th place. So I think once we have the last several laps, Amir, we're definitely going to have some great battles on our hands.
Oh, absolutely. Here's the geese of it, Kevin. We are reaching that point in the middle of the race where guys are just taking care of their tires. But once we go to at least around the final 5-lap mark, this is when we're going to get things going a little bit hairy. Maybe it's just upping the ante just to see if there are any of those guys who think that the win's on the cards. They might want to try it. But having said that, it looks as though some of those guys are probably trying that idea right now here, as we can see prior to that, a few corners to go, Valero was actually aiming towards Kulhavi's rear end, but hangs tight for a second. He knows probably now, halfway point, he's in a good running here. Ooh, really close. He's just biding his time.
Definitely. So we only have a couple of Hondas up front. Like I said, a lot of these guys opted for the Hyundai Veloster out here on track today, and so far it seems to be paying off pretty good for a lot of these guys. But like we said, it's just, I think right now, a matter of attrition with these drivers. So it's still technically a sprint race, but oh, Ayrton Reutemann right there looking to the inside, trying to make the move over Aaron Vasquez, getting really, really tight in that corner and having to check up. Gaston Culavi leaving the door open for Gael Valero now to start and try and take that 3rd place position. So now things are starting to heat up a little bit out here, Amir. These guys are starting to get a bit more aggressive. No, they're past the halfway point and really turning up the heat.
Yeah, I did say that it was a bit boilerplate a couple of laps ago. Now they're actually back. They're actually getting the heat up. As you can see, Valero goes onto the inside of Kulhavi. We saw that move being made, but now it's complete. Kulhavi has to concede that position coming through cops. Otherwise, he might end up like Max Verstappen a couple of years ago into the barriers at the outside. So at least he was a bit more circumspect, but he is not going to give up that fight. Certainly, Reutemann hounding the back of Vasquez. We saw him nearly coming through there just a lap ago, but he's dropped back now to the clutches of Valero, who's looking like the fastest driver in this group of 6, battling for the win.
And there's, well, that puts Gaston Culavi into a really unfortunate place, having to be sandwiched between Gael Valero and Corentin Guinez. But like we said, nonetheless, just trying to hold on to that rear bumper. And here we go, looking for the move outside. We have 3rd place, Gael Valero trying to go side by side now with Ayrton Reutemann. Will he be able to hold off the move? As we'll have to see which line that Gaston Culavi takes right here. He's going to stay behind Ayrton Reutemann as well. So these drivers now going to the inside still. Ooh, a little bit of door banging right there, looking like getting into the front fender. And Gael Valero having to concede that position back to 3rd.
Yep, and as I've said, some drivers are now going full pelt here, trying to get the win. As you can see Kulhavi. In fact, that was Valero getting hit by Kulhavi, and into Kulhavi loses position to Fabi. Fabi didn't have to do much. He just hung back and he got a podium position by virtue of the fact the guys in front of him were squabbling. And now for Reutemann, that's some clean air behind. He can focus on getting up to the back of Vasquez.
Absolutely. So right now putting a little bit less pressure on Ayrton Reutemann from where he was. Gael Valero nipping on his heels. Now gets to focus forward on Vasquez. And looking at that set them back. Gael Valero now a 1.2 second gap between himself and 3rd place of Gonzalo Fabi. So Fabi really being able to, like you said, taking advantage of it. We called that earlier on, just saying that these drivers really going to have to wait for the mistakes of the people in front of them. And just like that, trying to get aggressive, trying to take that extra place. Unfortunately, sliding out a little bit wide, left the door wide open. So now we still have about 9 laps left in heat number 1, so we'll have to see plenty of time for these drivers to make up that time. But now I see the gap starting to fall a little bit more already, 1.3, 1.4 seconds, as we can see the picture-in-picture replay. Those guys right there, Valero, Culavi, just getting into each other's doors. It looks like Gael Valero trying to hold on to that inside line, but unfortunately, just taking it a bit aggressive. The 2 drivers getting into each other, as well as forcing Culavi on the very inside of that curb. He might have got a slowdown for that as well.
Indeed, and well, you can say 10 points for style. if you're in Formula Drift, that's I think a very good front wheel drive drift, if that was ever a thing, because you know you really can't drive in a front wheel drive car. But Valero just mashed the throttle. You can see the amount of smoke that came out. He really was on the edge of losing it. But luckily, front wheel drive cars, as I said before, you can just put full throttle and the car will straighten itself up. That was the best example of what it looks like when you're out of control and you're in a front wheel drive car. You just have to pray that you get it out of there and full throttle your way out of it.
And looking at these, I think tire degradation might actually be coming into play out here. Seeing some of these drivers' best lap times as well as their recent lap times starting to slow down just a little bit. I know a lot of that also comes into the line of they're trying to run optimal lines, but they're also some of them trying to defend. Right now, we still have Dino Filippa, who was your top qualifier with the fastest lap so far out here in heat number 1. So we'll have to see if he holds on to it. The track right now is at about 48 degrees, the track temp, as well as the ambient temp being about 32 degrees. So still a little bit warm out here, not horrible, but still that is going to play into effect, especially now later on into the race.
Yeah, certainly, because higher track temperatures, about close to 50 degrees C, that will really affect the raining and the deck that these tires are going to go through. Because again, we'll have to reiterate how lower temperatures actually are good for lap times, but on the flip side, higher temperatures really affect the lap times, especially for the tires having to go through so much pressure with the front tires going through so much pressure into the corners. It heats up a lot. About the only time they can cool it off is when you're on the straight. You're really not putting those pressure on the tires, but apart from that, you just have to be very careful not to turn too much, and some of these drivers who are involved in incidents may have probably done some damage to those tires.
So we'll have to see, as right now, still a great battle between Aaron Vasquez and Ayrton Reutemann, as well as now Gonzalo Fabi able to start making up pace on that. So what was a little bit of, right there, Fabi going into the pit lane. So I'm not sure if, again, if he got an off track or if he got the black flag or if he has some damage from that incident earlier. If maybe, I mean, it looked like he got scot-free earlier on to get that third place position, but now, fortunately, in the pit lane as well as Mauricio Lozano.
Yeah, I think the guys are not actually very confident with their tires, maybe, because, again, it's not even a stop on the box. They just literally went through the pit lane and just got out. So we'll probably need to ask one of those guys after this why these pit stops were a thing. Otherwise, we're just left a bit confused by this, of why in a short track like this, and yes, the amount of laps is quite high, but I think the tires could just do the business and go all the way. But again, interviews after this will probably give us some answers, as now we're back to the battle up in front. Vasquez and Reutemann. Ever since Vasquez took the lead a few laps earlier, he is really just under so much pressure from Reutemann. We thought Reutemann was going to be dropped by Vasquez, but no. Reutemann's done a very good job in controlling the pace here for himself and getting up to the back of Reutemann, as Valero, Reales and Araujo all in the pits, and Dantas too. So this might just be a case of the tires not actually surviving the whole distance.
Yeah, the other thing I'm looking at too, seeing some of these guys hitting the pits, a little bit longer stop from some of them. It looks like about 6 seconds going on, 4.8. So I'm not sure if 6 seconds is quite enough to get a fresh set of tires. I mean, a lot of these in front wheel drive vehicles, I'm sure some of the guys, if they are opting for tires, might only be the front 2 tires just to get a little bit more grip on that turn in. But nonetheless, we'll have to see. You know, the other thing that, again, hopefully we'll get to talk to one of these guys during the interview room is at this point, I'm just wondering if everyone's seen everyone else pit, the leaders like we just seen that just went through the pits, if maybe that their mindset was, hey, well, everyone else is pitting, so I guess I have to pit. So not sure if it's still that miscommunication, or perhaps these guys know it and just say, you know what, I'm going to do the gentlemanly thing and pit anyway. So like we said, Amir, it really could be anything at this place. Oh, yeah, also possibly not enough fuel. That might be a possibility out here as well.
Yeah, that's also true, because if you remember, cast your mind back to the late 90s when BTCC used to have what they called sprint and feature races. That was a thing as well, actually, where you have to actually come in, do a mandatory stop and go out. But it looks as though it might just actually be fuel, because look, the cars didn't get jacked up. Now we're back on track. Cool, Harvey is actually in the lead only because he hasn't pitted, so is Demori. But among those guys that have stopped, Dino Filippa is back up in front.
And that, I mean, I guess that's one thing out here, though, which Can be a good or bad thing depending on who you ask. We do run the fixed setups out here for AMX, try to make a level playing field. I know that might be one thing out here that these cars are capable of, I believe about 100 liters of fuel. So I don't believe that that would be enough, but again, whatever the iRacing setups have, we may have to double check to see for this track combination. Typically, whenever you see this track, it is run in a lot shorter configurations for sprint races. So this still a little bit longer sprint race. Definitely, we'll have to see where these guys come out. Is now Gaston Coulavi, Simone Demori, the last couple of drivers to hit the pits.
Yep, might certainly be fulfilled because normally if the cars are jacked up, that's a tire change, and it will take a while for all these cars to come through because remember, these are not like Formula 1 cars where you can get a single nut off and just put the tires back on. It has to take a while to get these tires in on a touring car, and it looks as though some drivers have timed the pit stop to perfection because Felipe, through all the pit stop cycles, is back up in front. Is completely new look up in front here with Belziti second, Vasquez third.
Definitely. So looking from like Dino Felipe, where earlier he was sitting right in the middle of the pack for a majority of this race, just being patient, still trying to set the fastest lap, which he has still held on to this entire race. So he's just been out there running his own race. But now we have Toby Soriano, Aaron Vasquez out there battling it out for that third place position. Not sure if these guys over the next 3 laps, if they'll have enough pace to catch up to the leader, but great job, like you said, for Dino Felipe, as well as Fabrizio Belziti, the 2 Argentinian drivers up there holding it out on top.
And if Soriano gets lucky trying to get by Vasquez, which is going to be quite tough anyway, he can make it an Argentine 1, 2, 3, but sandwiching between himself and that third place is Aaron Vasquez, and behind him are the 2 fast Frenchmen, Guinness and Valero. So not an easy crowd to deal with, but Soriano has proven before in the past that he could actually mix it with these guys and come out on top. So no doubt about it, he'll try to use that experience he had before to get up to the podium.
Absolutely. So like we said, definitely we'll have to see what goes on as we are still heat number 1 of 2 heats out here at Silverstone. And following Silverstone, we're going to be heading over down the road to Snetterton Circuit. So it's going to be a great day all day long of TCR cars. So these drivers definitely, if they don't have the best race out here, there's still plenty of time left all day long for them to come back out. And once again, for everyone watching at home, make sure you can scan the QR code on screen that pops up periodically to get the live timing, be able to see who's setting the fastest laps, how many pit stops, and much, much more information. But right now, we're lap 28 of 29, and it's looking like the battle to watch from here on out may just be Aaron Vasquez and Toby Soriano.
Indeed, and that's about the closest battle this year because we're coming into the penultimate lap. We're on the penultimate lap now. Next time by will be the final one, of course. It's make or break time for these guys. There's no time to be hanging about and just being hanging back here. It's time for action, and for Guinness, he is putting action to get used to. He's flashing his lights, trying to intimidate Soriano, who's in 4th. Behind him is Valero, and that's a fellow countryman, but they're not part of the same team. They're gonna die for it here. Coming through Brooklands, and Valero has actually barged his way through, but they're going side by side again here. Will Valero be able to do so around the outside through Luffield? I don't think so. And Guinness hangs on to P5 for the time being, but all that battling has allowed Soriano to just inch closer to Vasquez and away from these 2 battling.
And that's an absolute great show of racecraft between these drivers right there. The 2 French drivers battling it out, as well as we'll have to see if Quentin Guinness, I think right now he's more worried about holding off Gael Valero than he really is about getting in front of Toby Soriano. Because I think right now really it's going to be between Aaron Vasquez, Toby Soriano, Quentin Guinness, and Gael Valero. But like we said, anything can happen with the white flag out, folks. We are moments away from getting your Heat 1 winner. Dino Felipe still holding a great lead over Fabrizio Balziti, as well as a 1.3 gap between second and third. Aaron Vasquez, Toby Soriano going to be battling it to the line.
Oh, that is going to be very, very close here for the final position on the podium. Ken Vasquez, who has been under pressure from any sort of driver throughout the entire way, he's going to hang on to third. As Felipe, though, out of nowhere, we thought he was going to be out of it. The pit stops, he's managed to actually win this one by 0.8 of a second in front of Belziti, but across the line, can Vasquez hang on to it? Yes, he does, by just 1/10 of a second from Soriano, Guinness, and Valero. Reutemann, who is second for most of the race, he's 7th, Kulhavi 8th, Resende 9th, and Miranda 10th. what an amazing 29 laps that we had here in Silverstone, Kevin, and we're gonna do more after this.
Oh, I can't wait for heat number 2. So again, just a quick reminder, top 15 will be making it. So it looks like Diego Villarreal will be sitting in pole for heat number 2. And we'll have to see with these drivers now that they know heat number 1 through the books. Where are they going to do it now that we know the pit strategy is definitely going to come into play? Are some of these guys going to try and do a little bit more fuel savings? I mean, they were down still about 3 or 4 laps. So I'm pretty sure they're going to have to make a pit stop no matter what out here, Amir.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. It looks as though that the tires might last the distance, but the fuel is not. So guys like Dino Filippo might not mind that one bit. He was one of those guys that pulled the trigger early and reaped the dividends towards the end by making an early pit stop. So he finishes as your BenQ session winner, 8 tenths ahead of Fabrizio Belzidi. As you can see, he has some very lively discussions with no doubt one of his fellow Argentines there, with Vasquez third, Soriano fourth, Guinness fifth, Valero sixth, Reutemann seventh, Kulhavi eighth, Resende ninth, and Miranda 10th. With all in heat number 2 going to Diego Villarreal, would you believe it? So we might just see the Uruguayan here try to do what Reutemann did by getting a good launch off the line.
Yeah, going there as well. The fastest lap being set by Dino Filippo as well. So definitely going to be great to see out here. We'll see if he can pull the hat trick out here. Of course, Dino Filippo, fastest in qualifying, fastest in heat 1, and winning heat number 1. Let's see if he can do it again in heat number 2.
Green flag, green flag.
And just like that,
And
the
we're on the
drivers
way for
are
heat
off.
2.
So it's going to be a great one as we see a great launch already. Diego Villarreal still holding on to that first place position. Quite a bit of a gap between him and the other drivers. In second place, we have Miguel Araujo and Mauricio Lozano shortly behind him. But these guys are going too wide out here. Let's see. It was a clean first race. Let's see if we start seeing some carnage out here in the second heat.
Oh, I don't think so. I think everybody has gotten through safely here once again. So all 20 drivers except for Evandro Dantas, who's actually called it quits early after a tough first heat where he wasn't even nowhere near the top 15. He will be having to just sit this one out as now. Coming through Luffield for the first time, Araujo. That's a name that we've seen, I think, a couple of times before. Miguel Araujo hanging on to the rest of the field as Diego Villarreal has done what Ayrton Reutemann did in that first heat and got an amazing launch off the line.
So here we go, and I love the side-by-side battle still all the ready. Gael Valero, Ayrton Reutemann now battling it out. We'll have to see. I know Gael Valero's hungry for that win out here in the TCR vehicles, as well as a couple other drivers there. Aaron Vasquez, Cortin Guinez starting a little bit lower on the grid. We'll have to see where these guys fall out, as we've already seen a couple of guys going down. Mauricio Lozano down 3 spots, Gael Valero up 2 spots from where they started. But now I think this is where it's all about these guys seeing where they were in heat number 1. No, they have to come out here in heat number 2 swinging, put the elbows out, just get it. Ooh, a little side-by-side action there between Valero and Reutemann. So those guys definitely starting to get a little bit aggressive with each other. You know, they're not happy about that. They're fighting quite literally for every single position that they can hold on this field.
Well, Reutemann there really on the cusp of what was actually legal in defense. He actually, maybe he was using a bit of side draft, but he just pushed Vasquez off completely. I thought it was Valero for a second. It was actually Vasquez in the second of the 2 Apex Racing cars coming to Brooklands. And Vasquez, with brilliant car control, manages to just get it through Brooklands without too much histrionics. But that was really on the edge stuff, and I think Vasquez might just remember that throughout the entire race.
Definitely, and we know that Aaron Vasquez absolutely has the pace to get that position over Ayrton Reutemann. So now, really, right there, just absolutely sending it. So I'm not sure if that was just the place conceded or if, just a bit of a mistake. But right here, we see the Delete the Esports drivers doing a great job blocking the field right here towards the front. That's Victor Miranda and Bruno de Carmines. Victor Miranda getting a little bit of bumping, going back and forth right there. And we have a spin out. That looks like that might have been Gael Valero getting spun out right there. And Juan Blenat as well. Oh, that's so unfortunate right there. Those drivers just going door to door. But that's what we've seen. And now Ayrton Reutemann getting almost pitted. Now sliding off. It looks like he has a bit of wheel damage there to that back wheel. Yep, that back wheel is getting locked up. So he's going to have to head for the pits potentially.
Oh, it's a puncture as well. It's a puncture. He's into the barriers. And, well, that was a bit anticlimactic. I thought I was going to hit it harder than that. But a rear puncture. He didn't know that the car was actually compromised, tried to come to the pits, but it looks as though he's going to be in there for a more extensive period, and that will mean Reutemann's charge in this second heat will not come to a beneficial result. So he's going to be discounted here as further up in front. We saw just now the two Delinte TK cars were actually working together to try and block the field. It looks as though their resistance is broken now. As we can see, that's what happened in the previous lap. They blocked. Oh, it looks as though Blanat was not the one that actually spun into the path of Gar Valero. He was actually helped on the way by either Bruno de Carmo or Victor Miranda. So, really ugly scenes there for a second in terms of a race fight. We thought it was going to be quite clean, but unfortunately, an inevitable collision happened because so many cars were just so close to each other.
And knowing that we have another race going on later on at Snetterton, definitely the gloves coming off out here in heat number 2 out at Silverstone. So like we said, those drivers are definitely going to remember that for later on in the race. So although that might be their heat 2 out there, especially for Juan Blanat, now dropping all the way back down to 18th position, as well as Ayrton Reutemann. We'll have to see how that comes into play when we head over to Snetterton later on. But now looking to make the move on the inside, a beautiful move right there from Aaron Vasquez over Gaston Kulabi. So great moves going on, as well as right behind them two Gael Valero. So the two Apex Racing teammates now trying to work together to get them both up towards the podium.
Oh, and look at that bit of bomb drafting here, and then some for the Gael Valero. Looks as though for the first time ever he's got a teammate that he can work with here to just get them both into a beneficial position. It looks as though it might just pay off here because Vasquez got a good run. Kulhabi's been mugged 2 for 1 by the two Apex Racing guys, and it might just be 2 for 1 coming up the tops here because Valero's got a good run and does so. He gets a slipstream from Vasquez. There we go. That's teamwork in action.
And just like that, so we see a picture-picture replay of the accident there with Ayrton Reutemann. So, like I said, the driver is just going too wide into there, getting someone hit the back of his rear fender, and I think, like you said, that might have just been enough for a puncture. And then he tries to go into the pits and unfortunately spins out once he touches the grass and goes into the barrier. Luckily, that, like you said, that could have been a lot more damage than it was. Luckily, didn't take him too long to get that fixed in the pits, and now he's back out on track.
Yeah, but it would have been much faster in terms of the pit stop time had it not been for that small collision. And speaking of collisions, Villarreal now having to defend from Miranda. And we know Miranda's already been in the wars earlier, but opts out of it and goes into the pit lane because he knows full well that guys like Pedro Dean and Gonzalo Fabi, as well as Tobias Soriano, are those guys that have pitted earlier, might just benefit from him pitting. In fact, Felipe is one of those guys that actually leads this particular pack of drivers that have pitted. But for Villarreal, he's hanging on to the lead only for the time being, though. He's just happy to have clear air right now.
Definitely. So we got the splash and dash coming from a lot of guys hitting the pits right now. So that leaves our top 5 drivers still yet to pit. I mean, we'll have to see. Like I said, Diego Villarreal doing a great job. If he's going to want to see it. Ooh, looking there at the picture-in-picture replay incident with Simone Demori, just absolutely getting sandwiched between 2 other drivers. And, ooh, just like I said, just having to kind of hold on the brakes and not get into any other collisions, not make it worse than it had to be. So another unfortunate incident out there. Like we said, as clean of driving that we got to see in heat number 1. Heat number 2, the guys definitely turned it up to 11 and putting elbows out, going door to door, bumping and banging the next car next to them. And yeah, unfortunately, sometimes it pays off, sometimes you end up into the wall.
Yep, and for Simon Demori, that ended up being unbeneficial for him because he's now a lap behind here, while Reales, despite having 2 pit stops, is in front of him. The guy involved in that particular instance, one of them was also Soriano was in front, and then got Fabi as well in between. So Gonzalo Fabi was lucky to get away with that one, otherwise he would have had a rear end damage, but he's still in the race. Meanwhile, up in front, Villarreal is now having to look in his mirrors here because you can see there, he's looking shifty-eyed to the monitors and see where are the other guys behind him in relation to his position. But he will not probably be wanting to see that as a pair of teammates all working together as well. Oh, and speaking of that, Villarreal is probably just giving them a tactical maneuver here just so he can get involved. Is he going to aim for the pits? No. It didn't look like a mistake at all, actually. He just did it of his own volition.
Yeah, so just like that. So, like I said, these guys there, Diego Villarreal, still doing a great job. He was holding on to that position for so long, and now back into third. But Aaron Vasquez still, he has the pace to be able to get a win out here. But like we said, he has not taken his it's not a mandatory pit stop out here. Just these drivers have been having to fuel up, didn't quite have enough fuel like we've seen in heat number 1. So we'll see how long Aaron Vasquez and Gael Valero, of course, the two teammates right now, I think we're going to see more of what we've seen earlier of them just trying to bump draft, trying to really stay out on track as long as they can. So I expect those two in the lead right now to probably just try and pull away, get as much of a gap before they hit the pits, try to maintain that lead once they're able to come out of the pits.
Yes, but as we are going to relate back to F1, would there be any papaya rules involved here? Because, you know, are they going to actually have team orders, or are they going to try to hold station and just, for the greater good, help both of them out here? But it looks as though Valero is doing the latter. He is actually holding station behind Vasquez, using the draft just to increase the gap between himself and Villarreal behind, with Lozano next in line to try and overtake Villarreal. So this might be an opportunity for both of the Apex Racing guys to make a beeline for it.
Yeah, definitely should be interesting how they handle this situation. Like we said, mostly it's almost always Gael Valero just out here by himself. And ooh, right there, Mauricio Lozano just getting into the back of Villarreal just a little bit, giving him a little bit of a love tap. Good thing that Villarreal, that could have been a lot worse, right, going into that corner. Good thing they didn't spin out, but here we have Lozano, though, that slowed him down, leaving room for Araujo now to try and peek a little bit. Let's see if he goes for the move. He's trying to get as close as he can right on the rear bumper, right onto the rear quarter panel now, almost side by side, but with the switchback, he's going to have to concede that, get back in line and try to hold on to it, maybe get in the back of his draft and really go into turn number 1 and 2. So we'll have to see what the strategy is here right now for Lozano and Araujo. So the battle going on for 4th place ensues, and like I said, these guys didn't quite see as many battles going on, but this is what it's all about. There's a huge gap between them. Of course, these two would be the last two from your top 4 or top 5. Sorry about that. The still 5 drivers yet to pit. So Lozano, Araujo, although they're battling it out, it might not be the worst time to try and pit for them.
Indeed, especially for Araujo's position, because he is being held up by Lozano so much. He is trying to get the maneuver done, as we get a fantastic camera shot here, or a helicam shot coming through to Brooklands. Araujo does make it, but at what cost? Because he's lost about a second and a half even to Villarreal, which could have easily been much closer had it not been for this battle, or he could have actually dovetailed into the pits and tried to go for an undercut here. So for Araujo, strategically not ideal, but at least as a consolation, he's gotten the move done on Lozano here.
Definitely, and seeing that of still a little bit of a gap starting to get between Villarreal and Vasquez. So we'll have to see when Diego Villarreal also pits, as we can see now there. Quentin Guinez, Victor Miranda out in the middle of the field, just behind Dino Filippa. So Dino Filippa leading the pack of drivers that have already pitted. I mean, a lot of these guys we already seen taking about 5.5 seconds, I'd say, roughly, seems to be kind of the average right now of the pit stops. So we'll have to just see exactly what happens, because right now, so far, between Dino Filippa and Gael Valero leading. So that's another thing out there. Gael Valero also taking the spot in first over Aaron Vasquez. So I guess, I'm not sure what the rules were between them, if they just seen, hey, who is the faster driver out here today on this track? Or if they're just going to kind of switch back and forth. Maybe if one person makes a mistake, the other one just let him get in front, get back that draft, start bump drafting, as they're already over 1.5 seconds. So now that they've hit a couple of those straights, a couple laps with the top 2 drivers, definitely starting to pull away. But the gap right now between Dino Filippa and Gael Valero is about 18 seconds. So I have a pretty good feeling that Gael Valero, Aaron Vasquez will be holding onto their positions by the time they hit the pits.
Certainly, and it looks as though that rule of engagement between the both of them was just non-confrontational. They'll rather just be working together and maybe let one of the guys who's known to be much faster in these cars compared to the other through and just show the way. So that's probably what Vasquez and Valero were thinking, and it's actually paying off big time right now, because Villarreal is still about 1.7 seconds behind, as Araujo and Lozano were actually battling hard for a second as well. That gives Villarreal a bit of space to just calm himself a bit and try to focus on his own race, as meanwhile jumping between the leading group and the group that are actually the leading group among the pit stoppers. Felipe and Guinness now are going to be engaging in battle, and it looks as though Guinness is the one that's looking a bit antsy right now. He's trying to actually reduce the delta that he has between himself and the leading group here once they make their pit stop. So this will be interesting. 14.8 seconds between Felipe and the top 5. If it gets any lower, it means that these guys are actually getting so much time that the guys up in the top 5 may not be leading when the pit stops happen.
Yeah, looking out here, so back to kind of, their team orders or not, just going back to qualifying. So Gael Valero did qualify in 3rd, and Aaron Vasquez had qualified in 13th, so nearly 0.3 of a second faster during the qualifying time. But like I said, I think a lot of that was Aaron Vasquez still getting used to the car and this layout of the track. We're running the shorter version of the track out here at Silverstone, so that may also have something to do with it just a little bit. But still, those guys right now, Dino Felipe, still roughly 18 seconds from the leader. So now that Aaron Vasquez and Gael Valero have nearly a 3-second gap over Diego Villarreal, and there goes Diego Villarreal going into the pit lane saying, all right, I'm not catching any ground on these guys, might as well just take my pit, do a little splash and dash, get back on there and start battling it out with who I have to.
Yeah, but I think he might have left it a couple laps too late here because, yes, he's actually hitting at the halfway point, which is ideal, but if he was losing time to the gate work, he'll rather try to undercut the guys behind him, because Araujo and Lozano now, if they start actually using each other's slipstream, they might just be able to eke out a bit of advantage once Villarreal comes back on track. It may be a non-factor in terms of the podium here because Villarreal now is actually exited the pit lane in P12, but based on the guys who have pitted right now, he's actually around P7. So we'll wait and see what do Valero, Vasquez, Araujo, and Lozano are going to do when they do their pit stops, and let's see if they still come ahead of this. But I got a feeling that Felipe is doing just enough here because he's chipping away at the delta to actually be ahead of Vasquez and Valero once they do their pit stops.
And as well, so speaking of pit stops, so far the fastest pit stop, about 5.1 seconds. A lot of these guys about the 5.3 second range. So I mean, I'd say comfortably, once the top 2 drivers go in for their pits, that's really where they're going to hope they have to go. I'd say about roughly 5.3 second pit stop is what they're going to try and get to really maintain that lead above Dino Felipe when they come out. So still holding it, still working on it. Like I said, believe they're going to wait until the very last minute that they possibly can, right before they run out of fuel, to hit the pits and try to maintain that lead. But right now, still putting on the pressure. Quarantine Guinness, Victor Miranda, these guys battling it out back and forth almost. We'll see, as you know, Victor Miranda trying to just find a move. I think also right now, some of these drivers right now in the middle of the field probably not thinking about it too much of where they're going to come out once everyone has finally pitted. I think right now they're just focusing on the guy right in front of them. Again, really out here on this track today, it's been a battle of attrition, having to wait, be patient, and wait for that perfect opportunistic move, because we've got to see what happens when these guys have been trying to force moves. A lot of times they end up into the side of the other driver and someone's going off the track.
Yep, and it has been a few occasions that we have seen on camera as well, especially with Valero and Kulhavi. I think when they were battling at one point, Valero had to actually jump onto the escape road to prevent any more damage to his car. Those are the sort of maneuvers that those guys will be looking for as opportunity to get by. And for Gonzalo Fabi, that's exactly what he got actually, when at this point of the circuit in the previous heat, Valero had a half spin, so Javi had to back out. Fabi took the free positions in that one fell swoop. So for those guys who are actually in the position that they might actually get a podium or even a win, they'll have to bank on the guys in front making a mistake.
Definitely. So just a quick reminder for everyone out there watching as well. So today, all day long, we are out in the UK, starting first here at Silverstone in the TCR cars. Going to be followed up by a second race later on at Snetterton. And of course, with Snetterton as well, there are multiple track layouts available for that track. And instead of using the full layout there, we're going to be running it a little bit shorter as well on the 100 configuration. So that is under a mile, about almost 1.6 kilometers out there. So definitely another very short, and that one a little bit tighter, having a really tight hairpin going into turn number 5 on that one. So that one, I expect there to be a little bit more carnage of how aggressive some of these drivers are going into it. I think a lot of them are trying to think, maybe I need to dial it back just a little bit. but I know from being out there with these guys on track a couple of times that once you start going into that mindset, I think depending on where you land on the grid, you really just forget about everything. You just say, all right, I need to push it as hard as I can. So I'm really expecting the second race of the day to be just as close, if not closer, than what we're seeing out here at Silverstone.
Oh, definitely, Kevin. It's a much smaller circuit in terms of the size compared to Silverstone, but nonetheless, the door banging action that we've seen as throughout Silverstone is going to be dialed up even further when we get to Snetterton. So I can't wait to see that one. As we look at Araujo, looking back to Mauricio Lozano actually fighting each other. So these are two Spanish-speaking drivers trying to just outdo each other here. But it looks as though Araujo, who got the better of Lozano a few laps earlier, is now under pressure himself here. So I'm surprised they have actually not taken a pit stop just so they could take a sting away from this battle and try to focus on the fact that the guys behind are actually closing and closing every single lap the more they're fighting here.
Definitely. So, I mean, it's great action that has been out here. A lot of people out there watching either live on Twitch and YouTube or watching the replay back later on. You can get yourself involved in these races. Like I said, AMX10 has minimum 3,000 I rating, but hey, the close battles that we've seen today, if you think you can get out here and battle it up, shake things up on the grid, we would love to have you out here, as well as a couple other classes. We have AMX0 and AMX5 going on every single Saturday this season as well. AMX0, a great place to get in there. Doesn't cost anything, no minimum I rating. If you just want to come out here and just have a great time, that is definitely the place to do it. As well as head over to amxrace.com to get signed up at any time to join in on the races. But back to what's going on out here on track today. Heat number 2 of our inaugural AMX10 race this season. Definitely been a good one so far. Gael Valero, Aaron Vasquez now still about a 1.8 second gap over Araujo, who has still yet to take a pit stop. These drivers, of course, not having enough fuel in heat number 1. Mauricio Lozano as well. So four drivers still remaining. It looks like right there, as soon as we say that, Araujo going into the pit lane.
Yep, and I think he might have left it a couple laps too late here, because they fought so hard that the guys behind are actually much closer than they were prior to the both of them coming to the pits. So no doubt Felipe, Guinness, Miranda, Soriano, De Carmo, Belzidi, Fabi, and Villarreal will all have been picking up positions. Though for Villarreal, it may not be the case because his pace in this second phase has not been as good compared to his first. So we'll wait and see. There we go. The rest of the field come by. But where does Araujo come out in relation to Villarreal? It looks as though he might have just sneaked it here. There's Villarreal coming through now, and Araujo manages to get a position away from him. So it might not be a battle for the podium or net positions anywhere near the top 10. He actually got the better of Villarreal by virtue of the fact that he had a better in-lap compared to Villarreal there.
And looking at the pit count as well, I'm looking Gaston Kulavi back in the pits. This is his third time in the pits this heat. That still, he's been in there about a minute 45 seconds, so getting some damage repaired, unfortunately. Or he might just be saying, hey man, I think I'm pretty much done with this race. I'm just gonna kind of get out of the way, maybe just try and get finished with this race. So we'll have to wait and see. But right now, here it is, Hortin Guinez, Dino Felipe, Victor Miranda, these guys battling it out in the middle of the pack. I think these guys battling it out is really benefiting Gael Valero and Aaron Vasquez, as right now there's still about an 18.5 second gap between these guys and your leader.
Yep, but the thing is, it's actually getting closer and closer, because Lozano, again, we saw that battle just now between himself and Araujo. That actually definitely contributed to why Guinness, Felipe, and Miranda are actually getting closer here. But for Valero and Vasquez, we'll wait and see whether or not their strategy of allowing each other through is going to help. As you can see there, that's Guinness coming from Felipe into Brooklands. Does he make it? Yes, he does.
And a beautiful move right there, Quentin Guinez, of course, showing why he is one of the best sim drivers out here in the TCR cars, as well as our top two that we've seen, Gael Valero. Oh, it looks like Aaron Vasquez hitting the pits. He did not go in at the same time as Gael Valero. That is very interesting to have. Of course, you know, in real life, definitely a lot of times teammates, they share pits, especially in the case of Formula One. You'll always have one go in before the other. But out here, where they each have their own pit box, that's a very interesting move between the two teammates, Amir.
Oh yeah, definitely, Kevin, because again, they don't have to worry about having to go into each other's pit stalls. They can actually go independently from each other. It looks as though Vasquez probably pulled the trigger because he wanted to just get some clear air out. But at the expense of, he's gone into a battle pack which he did not want. He's behind Soriano, in front of Belzidi. As Valero now gets to the pits, I think these guys may have left it a little bit too late here, because here comes Guinness, Felipe and Miranda. They're the leading group amongst the pit stoppers. Lozano follows through, but I think it's Guinness that's going to be in the lead after this.
Definitely so. We're going to start seeing that gap closing, and here it goes. 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, closing down on it. And yeah, Gael Valero, we'll just have to wait and see. Is now Quentin Guinness able to go over there? Where's Gael Valero going to slot out? Looking like right now it is going to be in about 4th place. So unfortunately for Gael Valero, he had to drop back a few places. But great news for Quentin Guinness, as we have about 5 laps left out here. Quentin Guinness leading the pack now. It's going to be the battle going on between him, Dino Filippa, and Victor Miranda for the lead.
Oh, that is decisive, isn't it? Because Guinness made that move stick when Filippa was caught a bit napping. He knew that he couldn't go any more narrow, otherwise he might lock up. He'll just have to concede the position, and that has proven to be the most important move of the entire race thus far. But there's still about 5 laps to go after this, and we might just see Filippa try to get back at Guinness to try and make it a clean sweep. Remember, he had the fastest lap in qualifying. He was the winner and had the fastest lap in the first heat. Right now, we're not sure if he got the fastest lap for the time being. I think he is not. It's Guinness. So he'll probably be trying to get the slipstream from Guinness and maybe get a fast lap out of it, because otherwise they'll have the gentleman's set, a complete clean sweep of all the sessions and the small awards that come with it. They'll love to have that. That'll be a bonus, but for the time being now, what's on his mind is trying to get back into the lead.
So definitely, I think this is what we can expect all season long for AMX10. I mean, definitely Dino Filippa came out here ready to play, ready to show off. Okay, guys, you know what? A lot of people already know me, but I came here to cement my name in AMX history. I'm going to be atop that championship at the end, coming out here from the very first day. And we'll have to see, like we said, we've already seen it out here. We're going to have to see if he can make the move over Quentin Guinness, as these two still only a couple tenths off, just trying to hang on to that rear bumper, but the time is ticking for these two drivers. Quentin Guinness, of course, we got to see in Heat 1 showing an absolute masterclass in defending as well. So definitely two of the top drivers for TCR coming out here and battling it, folks. This is what it's all about out here, AMX. This is what we can expect all season long from AMX10.
Wow, definitely, especially given the fact that every time we see the touring cars, TCR cars on board, we're going to be in for a great showing. And it has proven here once again that the first heat was an amazing barnstormer. The second heat is going to come into a very nail-biting finish here with Dino Filippa. What's on his mind right now is not going to be that clean sweep. We normally use the word triple crown if you win all 3 sessions, but I think we rarely use the word clean sweep when you can have the fastest lap in qualifying and the 2 heat wins. But if you get fastest lap in both of them, that's all the sessions covered. And for the time being, Filippa is just 2 tenths off from Guinness in that regard in the fastest lap stakes, but he can still be on his way to a triple crown.
Absolutely. So we'll have to just see, as I think right now, again, it's going to be Dino Filippa, I think, waiting for that opportunistic move. Although he wants to try and force something, he's seen what's happened early on. When you force something, it doesn't always turn out how you plan. So I think right now, Dino Filippa, again, really trying to wait on Quentin Guinness to just, I mean, both of these drivers are running absolutely perfect lines. Quentin Guinness not trying to run too defensively, so I think, again, he's doing a lot of mirror driving, as right now, look how close these two guys are to each other. Just meter, maybe not even less than a meter away from each other going into some of these corners. So I think Dino Filippa doing an absolute great job of just holding it off in as close as he possibly can. But I think as well getting held up just a little bit, as it looks like he's having to check up a little bit more on some of these turns. So has just a little bit better pace going through some of these sectors, Amir.
Ooh, looking at the sector timings right now, it looks as though that because Filippa's behind Guinness, his sector times are much slower compared to Guinness's, but the slipstream is helping out big time. And look at the shirt he's wearing. It says, just seriously. Well, he's taking it very seriously right now, does Filippa. He knows full well what's at stake. It's a triple crown and another win on the cards here to just boost his early championship hopes, because he came close a couple of seasons now it looks as though this season he might just take it by the scruff of the neck and try to make it his own. But if he wants to actually prove that stake, he might want to try to put one over one of those cool cam operators in iRacing, and that's Corentin Guinness, who has been a champion before, and he's proven to be very good in touring cars. If he can get one here, it will set himself quite well for the rest of the season.
And speaking of drivers that are good at touring cars, right now taking a peek to the inside, almost trying to make the dive, but just checking up a little bit more. Dino Filippa, it looked like he was almost going to just absolutely send it to the inside of Corentin Guinness, and you got to see, looked a little bit nervous there, just seeing him get a little bit shaky on the steering, just trying to not lose the car. So absolute great car control right there from Dino Filippa. That could have ended up very badly, but right now, folks, the white flags are out. It is now or never for these two drivers, and they know it. It is about to be the race of their life so far on this season. We'll have to see Corentin Guinness doing a great job out here, holding it down for France, holding it down for SimRC Racing Team. But Dino Filippa showing that he is out here to battle, trying to put his name down in the record books. But there goes Victor Miranda now, door to door. Victor Miranda getting into the side of him.
Oh, and because Filippa ran wide, trying to get up to the back of Guinness, he went a bit too fast there, overshot the corner, and that allowed Guinness to have a bit of breathing room. Now Miranda's onto his clutches. This is going to be a close finish, but not for the win that we wanted. But still going to be close nonetheless as Miranda gets shoved out wide. Filippa hangs up the second, so there goes the triple crown. But for Guinness, it is a much needed win here after the struggles of last season. He wins the second heat in AMX10. What a finish.
So we got to see the battle going on. Dino Filippa trying to stick it for the win, but unfortunately, like we've seen all day long, you have to keep it absolutely perfect, and that's what Corentin Guinness did out here, having a perfect run in heat number 2, able to get up 10 positions into that top spot, defending off Dino Filippa, finishing in second position, and Victor Miranda with a close call there at the end, coming into third place. So definitely a great thing for what we got going on out here. AMX10 all season long, Amir. I have no doubt in my mind this is what we can expect going on into the later races out at Snetterton. Maybe a little bit more aggressive now that these drivers might have a bit of grudge matches going on.
Grudge match is the best way to put it, isn't it, Kevin? Because some of the drivers might have a few bones to pick among each other, but regardless, we're probably going to be treated more the same and in a much tighter circuit, because it is the Snetterton 100 circuit used as well in the BTCC, that almost 1 kilometer long back straight on the hanger straight, they call it over there, to come through. It's going to be interesting, but for the time being, reveling in the win. Not much of a smile even, but I think he was just happy to take that one. Corentin Guinness is your BenQ session winner by a second ahead of Dino Filippa. That final lap mistake by Filippa allowed him to just stroke it to the end. Miranda 3rd, Valero 4th, Soriano 5th, Vasquez 6th, Delziti 7th, Fabi 8th, De Carmo 9th, and Lozano 10th. I think the battle between himself and Araujo cost him a chunk of time, and look at that, 9 seconds in the end, the total difference between themselves and that other battle pack that went through. Behind them, Blainat, Dean, Demori, and Reales round up your point scoring finishes with Villarreal, who was on pole, sadly a full minute behind at the end. But regardless, up in front, Guinness and Filippa provided us with an amazing race throughout the entire heat.
Absolutely, and I can already see out here too. So some of the drivers already load up the trucks, folks. We are going to be heading over to Snetterton very soon. I know a lot of these drivers already getting their way, heading on over to the other track, try to get in a little bit of practice. So I believe we're not going to be hearing from these drivers just yet. We'll wait until after Snetterton. We're going to give them the time to head over into practice, head on down the road, down to Snetterton, and of course, start getting prepared for what I expect to be an even closer race. So we're going to be heading it out to Norfolk, England very soon. And of course, Amir, what was your highlight of race number 1 of the day?
I think there's too many highlights to consider, to be honest, because the action was great. But I think the best one of the lot had to be that second heat, of course, because of how close Guinness and Filippa were to fighting each other. And Guinness's move towards the end of that heat was also important, because that put Filippa under the cosh, and he just had to make that move stick, come what may. but it never happened, and Guinness hung on to it by virtue of the fact that he had better defensive maneuvers to just prevent Felipe from taking it. I would say Heat 2 towards the end was probably the best 5 laps we saw throughout his entire race so far.
Yeah, so things are definitely heating up. But folks, like I said, make sure to not go anywhere. We are going to be heading over to Norfolk very, very soon to the beautiful Snetterton circuit. Of course, running the 100 layout. So a little bit shorter, but these guys putting on a great show so far. So race number 2 going to be coming up here very shortly. Make sure not to go anywhere. I'll probably be hanging out with everyone out in the chat in between. We got a few minutes in between. Make sure to check out our socials in the meantime. Make sure to head over to amxrace.com if you want to get signed up or just to see our full schedule for the season. So we will see you all very shortly. Max Verstappen back into first place. They want to make that move, but here goes Gustavo Ariel diving to the inside. Gael Valero looking for the move over Archie Neumann. He has it.
And you can just see Peter Zuba pushing Florian Labigra right over.
Oh, Chris Lallum, he does make that pass.
Gael Valero doing his best on the outside, gets sideways, and no, the teammates crash. We had the number 11 going right there. 3 wide out there in the middle of the field, through the mountain straight now, going 3 wide.
Oh my word, that is probably one of the best shows of the entire season.
Towards the Niki Lauda curve, bumping and banging and into the wall. That is a horrible crash.
2 wide now, door to door. Max Verstappen to Valtteri Bottas. Max Verstappen able to safely rejoin. Slots it right in front of another car.
Carousel immediately, he gets punted off. That was Saavedra. Aguilar, he's gone off. He's been tapped and he's into the barriers. Oh, the rejoin. Oh, no.
Dean. Oh, Pedro, Dean.
Oh, Chris Lallum does have the inside track for the Swiss left. If he's able to make that pass happen, he might be able to cut away Victorino. He does make that pass, and he makes it clean, and they're coming to the right hand, and this is it. Chris Lallum seizes the opportunity and makes it. And just as the end, the rain comes to put a pin onto the end of the race, and Chris Lallum takes it.
Miranda Peter Zuba into the wall.
It's actually Valero. Valero's actually gone off into the barriers coming up to the cutting.
David Todd making his way back up, has already climbed 7 positions.
Oh, I spoke too soon there. Zende goes up.
So right now, this is going to be where it's going to get shaken up. David Toth passes them while they are in the pit through the mountain straight now, going 3 wide.
Oh my word, that is probably one of the best shows of the entire season.
So we have 3-way battle going to the most dangerous turn of the mountain. Up the mountain, we have contact right there. These guys going absolutely crazy. It's going to come down to the final corner, Murray's corner. Who is going to have to lead? We may have a drag race to the finish line on our hands, folks. You see David Toth right now going into the pit lane.
Permission to engage with the test conducted smash. Over.
We go racing for heat number 1 here in Austria. Over AMX20 in towards the nicking outer curve, bumping and banging and into the wall. That is a horrible crash. That's a huge lunge from Gaston Kallavi, and he's made contact with, I believe, oh wow, it's a chaotic moment here. No slipstream in front for either car, and you can just see Peter Silva pushing Florian Levigra right over.
Here we go then. Valeri, he looks left, he looks right. He's getting to the right hand side, which is the inside going into turn 3.
Here it is. This is the crucial moment in this race. It's looking like it's only going one way. David Toth is going to take the race lead. Heading into the second half of the season, the Hungarian of David Toth has driven a masterclass here with the early pit stop. Not the ideal strategy, but an ideal race winner and an excellent performance.
To save our home, we must travel through the gateway to find new energy.
Halfway through our UK tour today, we're heading up the road to Norfolk, UK. That's right, folks. We are at Snetterton, out here for AMX10 in the TCR vehicles. Everyone, welcome back. I am Kevin, along with Amir, joining you in the booth today. We've already got to see some great AMX10 action going on earlier, and I expect nonetheless as we continue out here at Snetterton Circus. Snetterton, I almost said Snetterton Circus, because I think hopefully that's not what we see today, but I do expect as we're running the 100 layout for things to get a bit dicey out here, Amir.
Oh, certainly, especially given the fact that what we saw earlier just now, especially in Heat 2, it was quite manic, I would say, to say the least, in the initial stages. But the finish that we had towards the end was really one for the books in terms of how close the battles were. I think we might get a similar situation, but the way that Snetterton's laid out, especially that chicane coming out to the start-finish line, that might be a huge point of contention, but we'll get into that after this.
Absolutely. And for everyone out there watching, make sure to follow all of our social medias. We got the best and highlights, replays, as well as last season having a giveaway. So make sure we post a lot of stuff there to follow all of that, as well as heading over to our website, get the full schedule, get signed up to race. But as always, so things changed up a little bit this season for AMX10. We have a little bit different format going into this season. Of course, heading out on our world tour this year, we have started it up yesterday for season 6, going all the way through November 17th with this season's prize pool of $11,000 plus next level racing gear. Our format goes as following for AMX10. We have our 20-minute qualifier going into that top 15 reverse grid, followed by heat number 1 of 30 minutes going into that second top 15 reverse grid, and finally a second heat of 30 minutes. And what we got to see earlier, it's definitely led to some great racing already. For all of our drivers out there, driver camps are required. You can get the link via our AMX Discord or on the website. Payouts are done in balances over $100 paid out every single month. So once you hit $100, expect that money to head your way. And we are here every single Saturday and Sunday this season. Like I said, get signed up to race anytime over at amxrace.com. The schedule's also a little bit different this season. We are doing AMX0 and AMX5 every single Saturday, starting at 5:40 p.m., followed by that second race at 7:10 p.m. And on days like today, we have AMX10 going on from 5:50 p.m. with the second race followed at 7:30. And every other week this season, we have AMX15 with our mini enduro races starting at 5:50 p.m. GMT. So make sure to tune in next weekend as well for the introduction of that. For our prize pool out here at AMX10 this season, we got first place walking away with $15, second place getting $10, third place getting $9, all the way down into 15th place. And that is the same for heats number 1 and heat number 2, totaling to $500 prize pool per race. And for all the drivers out here, must have a minimum road I rating of 3,000 to battle it out on track with AMX10. But like I said, folks, everyone, we are still back out here in England as we continue the next chapter of our thrilling race series. Once again, the United Kingdom, some of the best racing, some of the most awesome landscapes and history, going from the industrial heartbeats of the cities to the sweeping hills of the countryside. The small island nation has made an enormous impact on the world stage.
Yeah, that's right, Kevin. And it's a country known for its creativity and engineering, and not more so the fact that we're at Snetterton, just not far away from Milton Keynes and the rest of that motorsport valley, or what it was basically kind of like Silicon Valley for motorsports. It really is one of the finest areas in the world of motorsports. A lot of F1 teams are sprouted from there. You can see the difference in skyline from the cities all the way up to the coast, the cliffs of Dover, and etc. It's just really one of those countries with a mix of extremes.
Absolutely. And of course, outside of the beautiful landscapes, we have some of the best racing circuits in the world. And although earlier on we're at Silverstone, and while Silverstone may be the crown jewel of British racing, we're going to shift gears and heading over to the renowned Snetterton circuit, Nestled in the picturesque Norfolk countryside, it holds a special place in the hearts of many motorsport enthusiasts. What began as a World War II airfield base has evolved into one of the most versatile and challenging tracks out in the UK. Of course, opened back in 1951, and today on the 100 layout, sporting a length of just over 1.5 kilometers long. But enough about the track itself. We have some great racing. We got to see, of course, the TCR vehicles, Amir.
Yeah, certainly, Kevin. While we know that Snetterton is known for its variety, it is also it's quite comparable to what we have in the TCR class. 315 horses to 350 horsepowers, and again, BOP is a factor, of course, because it's like GT3, GT4, and to a certain extent as well, similar to GTP racing nowadays. Front-wheel drive, 1.2 to 1.5 tons, and flappy better gearboxes, as what Jeremy Clarkson would say, is on these cars. You don't have to take your hands off the wheel. You can just shift up or lower through the gears on your steering wheel. And with a mix of 4 cars from 3 manufacturers in here, it's a burgeoning class since it was introduced 10 years earlier. But for iRacing, we have 4 different types of cars, and 2 of them are on screen together from the make of Hyundai.
Absolutely. So we're going to check in on our drivers, how they're doing in qualifying. What would normally be roughly a 4.8 kilometer layout in the full 300. We're shortening it down today for these drivers. Only 6 turns will be between them and victory today, as we're on the 100 layout. Definitely going to be showing what these drivers can do on these absolutely tight circuits. Of course, one of the biggest things out here on track is going to be turn number 5, where of course we have the pit stop out here, but as well as a super tight hairpin going into it. So a lot of these drivers, as you can see on board right here, the number 5, definitely going to be looking forward to what happens there. If we're going to see a bit of carnage, as well as probably one of the most unique pit stops in all of iRacing.
Oh, certainly. I'm not sure how on earth that they're going to try and pit in such small circuit like this. It's almost like a bull ring. And I did say earlier, it's kind of like a chicane. That's because the 200 and 300 layouts have it. But this one, it's a different sort of change, isn't it? So small, so frenetic. It might just be a case of whether or not you can thread the needle to overtake. It's equivalent to Silverstone Snow Circuit, isn't it? The way that it's actually in the infield of the entire thing and incorporates part of the 300 circuit here. As you can see there's the pit lane and some of the garages there, and that's the hairpin that comes through it. So the exit's going to be real tight here, but I don't think fuel may be much of a problem compared to what we had in Silverstone. As you can see, Vasquez goes off and safely out of harm's way. It's going to be quite a crazy race, I would say.
Definitely. So out here, not going to be a lot of long straightaways like you would normally see out at Snetterton, but definitely it's going to make for some interesting racing. So these guys, like we got to see earlier at Silverstone, really going to have to take any single opportunistic move. I think we're going to see a lot of drivers out here today really trying to force the move on the people in front of them. As we can see just right now, with 20 drivers on the grid so far, even during qualifying, just how absolutely packed out it is. As we can see right now aboard number 19 of Cortin Guinez out here, of course, the SimRC racing driver, doing excellent on the last race, and now coming out here trying to hold it down in Snetterton. But we got to see the likes of Dino Filippo, who was the fastest in qualifying earlier on, as well as winning heat number 1 out at Silverstone. So definitely don't sleep on a lot of these guys. A lot of the Argentinian drivers came out here to win today.
Certainly, and we saw just now how 6 to win the top 10 is a case similar as well. In this case, with Kulhavi, Blainat, Fabi, Filippa, Belzidi, Soriano in there in qualifying. Of course, remember, we'll flip the script on its head after this by putting the top 15 from there to just be bottom side up in this case. So Pedrodini, if he stays where he is, he'll be on pole for the race. But in a short track like this, it's going to be real absolute mayhem if you could keep it up in front. As now, we look at several drivers along the way. That's Corentin Guinness. He's up in front by 2/10 of Gaston Kohavi. In terms of spread of manufacturers, previously in TCRs, we always saw the Audi RS3 being chosen, but now I think the Audi's been slightly nerfed because we see more Hyundais and Hondas in the mix here, with both versions in terms of models for the Hyundais are being chosen here right now.
Absolutely. So we've got to see earlier a few Audis, like you mentioned, now not on the field out here for Snetterton. but definitely we'll have to see quite the contrast from a couple seasons ago. That was nearly all that everyone ran was the Audis. So it is great to see. I mean, you want to see all of the manufacturers out here represented, but definitely we'll have to see what happens. As now we're following Gonzalo Fabi. We're gonna have to see. He did pretty decent in the first race of the day out at Silverstone. We'll have to see how he holds up out here. Like we said, once again, although you may be quick around the track, once you put 20 drivers bumper to bumper, it makes for an entirely different situation. And out here, things are relatively warm, still pretty decent, I'd say, about 32 degrees out here, 46-degree track temperatures as well. So definitely going to keep an eye on that, see if that increases over the length of the race. But with it being just over halfway through our qualifying out here, still it is Corentin Guinez at top, Gaston Kulabi in second, and Juan Blenat in third place.
Yeah, Juan Blenat is one of those drivers that had quite a torrid time in that first race. He'll be looking forward to picking up the pieces here and try to have a good run in the second, as he nearly ran into the back of that looks like Dino Felipe. No, it's not Felipe, that's actually Ethan Reutemann. So he nearly went to the back of him, completely coming out to the hairpin. That might be a case again of trying to get as much time as possible in the short space of time in between the corners, especially a hairpin that came up. That's going to be a case, isn't it? Whether or not some drivers might try to do a do or die in those tight areas.
Now I was just looking at the people in comments, someone saying, I didn't know people actually raced at Snetterton in iRacing, but that's what we do, folks, out here. AMX, we love challenging the drivers, so especially being on the 100 layout of the circuit, probably the least popular version. I mean, we get to see a lot of the 300 and 200 out in the officials in iRacing for a lot of different vehicles. So definitely it's going to be a bit of a challenge, as we can still see some of these drivers that would normally be atop the leaderboards, I think, are still trying to get a handle on the track. Like we said, it being under a mile long out here is absolutely crazy out here, and still being about 45-second lap times. And speaking of lap times, even right now, the gap is still less than a second from almost all of the drivers, all the way down to the top 17 drivers, less than half a second gap. So that what we seen earlier, that was very similar in qualifying at Silverstone. We had a lot of drivers less than half a second between each other, and like I said, anything could happen out here in these vehicles.
Yeah, certainly, Kevin, and given the fact that it's actually, if you look at it, it's 0.98 miles. You can literally put it to an oval. It's a short oval, but this one's a short oval with extra steps. This is a few corners more than what you get here. So really, it is a bull ring, but it's just slightly more complicated.
And so we'll have to see is here now too. We have Reales, who we got to see earlier as well, coming back out here for race number 2. I mean, pretty much it's basically the same drivers that we've seen all day, as well as we got to see Aaron Vasquez return, of course, him and Corentin Guinez, Gael Valero, a lot of guys towards the top of the pack doing a great job on the last race out at Silverstone. So we'll have to see if they can repeat those same kind of results. We got to see a lot of drivers earlier on. There are no mandatory pit stops out here for AMX10 this season, but last race out at Silverstone, some of these drivers didn't quite have enough fuel, so they had to pit. We'll have to see if that comes into play out here today, Amir.
Yep, certainly. It is a long race in terms of numbers, because it is 38 laps, would you believe it? That's actually quite a lot if you want to put it onto a short track. So though it may not be fuel this time, it might just be tires. So we'll keep an eye out whether or not there's going to be some strategy changes. And certainly the most hair-raising element of this circuit is not the corners, is the pit exit. You can see there just now a couple of drivers actually going out of the pit lane, straight bleeding off into the circuit. As you can see, Reutemann goes off there. The corners are part of the problem, but here is the pit exit. As you can see, coming around to the final hairpin, there's the pit lane road on the left, and the exit on the right. Boy, oh boy, can you imagine if some drivers went into the pits and come onto the track? They might just create some scuffles there.
And it's so crazy to think that these drivers out here, like I said, there's only 6 turns out on the 100 layout. But here we have another great driver, Simone de Mori. We got to see, like I said, putting it down absolutely great yesterday during those races. Coming out here, we'll have to see what you can do out here in the Veloster. Like I said, a lot of these drivers, just the absolute caliber that all of them are at. Less than half a second between most of the drivers. I I mean, it's really hard to say exactly what is going to happen out here. I mean, normally I'd like to make predictions of what I think is going to happen, but from what we got to see at Silverstone earlier on, I'm not going to make that mistake of making any predictions out here. But I think the one thing that we do know, can predict for sure, is these drivers are going to leave it all out on the track.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And a second covering the entire field. That's how close it is. As if anyone was asking if these corners have names, you can see there Williams. You had Augie, same name after an investor of the circuit, Sir Peter Ogden, and Lewis Hamilton as well having a name on here. And speaking of names, shout out to the lads and possibly lasses in the comment section. The likes of Evan Dalton, our fellow commentator, who's unfortunately not being able to come here today due to some slight health problems, but let's hope he can actually recover and we can hear him for the next broadcast. Just Keith, Site 815, thanks for the lovely comment about hearing me back, and I'm having to be back doing commentary, listening, and all those other guys in the YouTube section, plus Porco Prato, or Porco Prata, Sweet Trip, Hero MP3, those guys in the Twitch comments, you know who you guys are. Lovely to have you guys on board here today for what has been, so far at least, some really good racing in the TCRs. Ain't that right, Kevin?
Definitely, and as we have just under 4 minutes left out here in qualifying, so although I'm not going to make any predictions out there, I know we have the chat cheering on some of their favorite drivers. So chat, go ahead and put it in the comments who you think is going to win. We'll see them pop up on screen. I know these drivers love seeing all the support from everyone out there, just like we do. So who you think is going to win out here, especially you want to go as far as Heat 1, Heat 2. I know we've seen a lot of people out there, definitely a lot of Bruno De Carmo fans. We've seen Aaron Vasquez, Ayrton Reutemann. So definitely out here. Some people also say, man, this is the most cursed layout ever. I mean, hey, that's what we want out here. We want something different. We want something that these drivers don't know like the back of their hand. I know a lot of people have kind of teased that, hey, we go to Spa way too much. So we're like, all right, you know what? If everyone is going to say we're out at Spa so much, we're going to start throwing up track layouts that we've never had before. So that's what we get to do out here today. And so far, it's been pretty interesting just seeing how close these guys have to be to each other.
And probably some of the reaction is probably embodied in that shirt that Dino Filippo is using. Just seriously, this layout, I think it's actually quite an interesting one because it's such a small circuit with so many cars. It's going to be like the equivalent of, as I said earlier, a short oval, but with a few extra steps, i.e. more corners to deal with and less room for error.
As we can see right here, so a lot of guys in the middle of the pack too. Now following along with Pedro Dean, who is just under 0.4 of a second off that top spot. So right there, already half the field. Whenever you're already about 0.4 of a second off, I mean, that's still a lot of these guys, like we said, out here learning this circuit. It's not very common to see out in iRacing with a 100 layout, especially in these vehicles. You might see it in something akin of the Formula V, but definitely putting a little bit faster in these cars. And one thing that we got to see earlier going on is we'll see how many people really start fighting left and right hook going into each other. We got quite a few off tracks, quite a few incidents in that one. And ooh, right there, Jackson Assange going up in the leaderboards now, holding on to that 7th place position. So definitely, you know, he's happy about that as we have just over a minute left in our qualifying session.
Yep, and he had some help with Victor Miranda there right in front of him. But the thing is, there's not enough straights on this circuit to even warrant using a slipstream. So if anything, having somebody in front is going to be a complete hindrance. On top of that, it's anti-clockwise, so a lot of guys are not used to having anti-clockwise as part of their routine. Normally people love to use clockwise circuits. In real life, your neck's going to feel a bit more pain on it, especially real life race car drivers. They train their necks a bit more so that they could try and contend with an anti-clockwise layout. It's short, and as Hero MP3 pointed out in the Twitch section, that pit exit is unbelievable, and I can say so as well. It's almost like in Cleveland, if you remember IndyCar used to race in Cleveland's Berkeley Lakefront Airport. The exit was outrageous, and this is pretty much a B-Tech version of that exit, I would say, but still a crazy one nonetheless. And if there was pit stops in the race, those guys who are exiting and coming through the hairpin might have to keep each other on their toes.
Yeah, and looking out at this layout here, so we have just a few seconds left, so we'll see if these drivers, the likes of Ayrton Reutemann, have just enough time to get a one last lap setting, but looks like everyone is already hitting the pits. Gonzalo Fabi being one of the few out on the track. But just like that, the time has ended. Qualifying has finished, and we know it's going to be, of course, one of the best TCR drivers. Quarantine Guinness sitting atop, showing what he can do. But Aaron Vasquez, sitting in that 15th place position, will now be able to get onto pole position. So we'll have to see Aaron doing a great job earlier on. We got to see him Heat 2 leading with Gael Valero for quite some time. But right now, your BenQ session winner, Quarantine Guinness, setting a time of 45 seconds, 0.558, absolutely blazing around here. In second, we got Gonzalo Fabi. Third place, Gaston Kulabi. Fourth, Dino Felipa. Fifth, Juan Blanat. Sixth place, Victor Miranda. Seventh, Jackson is NJ. Eighth, Gael Valero. Ninth, Ayrton Reutman. 10th, Bruno De Carmo. 11th, Fabrizio Balziti. 12th, Kobe Soriano. 13th, Pedro Dean. 14th, Diego Villarreal. And in 15th, Aaron Vasquez, like we mentioned, able to set pole now for the heat number one. Unfortunately for Marcelo Reales, Mauricio Lozano, Simon De Mori, we have a couple other drivers out there too, Miguel Araujo, Bandro Dantas. Those guys will not be making that reverse grid. So good luck to them. They will have to fight for every single position from the back of the pack. We'll have to see if Aaron Vasquez, Diego Villarreal, Pedro Dean, if they are able to take advantage of the great grid position.
Yeah, let's see if that will be the case, or pit stops might come into play here, Kevin.
Definitely. So we're just moments away from going green out here. The Snetterton 100 in the TCR cars. Out here, great day of racing all day long at the UK. Of course, some of the best driving going on at the UK, both in the sim and in real life. We'll have to see though, because earlier on we got a couple of winners already. The likes of Dino Felipa, Quarantine Guinness. We're going to have to see if they can battle their way through the pack and get a couple more wins on the day. And just like that, so all of our drivers are off, leading a commanding lead. Aaron Vasquez, Pedro Dean able to make a move immediately over Diego Villarreal, trying to hunt down the leader right now. So like we said, out of the gate, these drivers being extremely aggressive, trying to get every position that they can. With how tight this course is out here, it's definitely be a hard time to pass for any of these drivers. So all the way battles in the middle of Gael Valero up in position, Reutman up in position. Unfortunately, Bruno De Carmo going down. It looks like someone off the track. That is Bruno De Carmo flying off into the grass. Now rejoining, getting into the inside. And someone else off the track. That is Juan Blanat. Juan Blanat getting sent once Bruno De Carmo came back on the track, going in hot. And just like that, folks, we have our first incident of the race.
And for Blanat, once again, it's the Delinte cars he's getting involved with. He really is not having really the best of time, and he got shafted once again, though this time luckily for him he didn't get completely wiped out, but definitely not the best way to start off this particular heat, as we look at Felipa under severe pressure now from Bruno De Carmo. De Carmo goes to the inside. De Carmo then gets launched off into the barrier, so twice in second light he goes up. There he goes. Just as he was going back onto the track, he goes off into the grass, while in the replay, in the inset, he was on the grass and causing an incident.
Yeah, I'm seeing someone coming across the chat now saying that Tony Kanaan will not be too happy about the teammates going into each other. We've seen that happen yesterday. A bit of an incident between teammates in the F4 race. So these guys, definitely a lot of healthy competition, but like I said, sometimes emotions can get high and you just start trying to focus on being super aggressive, and that doesn't always pay out, like we've seen in the matter of Bruno De Carmo out here. So still out in the middle of the pack, however, from going on there, about a second gap between him and Gonzalo Fabi. So we'll have to see now as Gaston Kulabi putting it into right the back bumper, as well as Quarantine Guinness right on the rear end of him as well. So definitely these guys getting a bit bunched up towards the mid of the pack and the back of the pack as well. Leading plenty of time though, a lot of battles going on. I expect these battles to be tight the entire time out here, Amir.
Absolutely, because the way that the short nature of the circuit, people are going to go through, as you can see there. That's an early sign that we have what things to come. As Guinness comes into the pits, that's probably for fuel, trying to get also out of the way of the traffic, so he'll have plenty of clean air throughout the entire heat to just buy this time and get back out to the front. So that might be a master stroke in terms of strategy of when he comes back out onto the track, he's got clean air and he's ready to roll.
Yeah, looking at that too. So I seen the jack stands go up for Quarantine out there. So looks like he may have been switching tires. I'm not sure exactly if that was a mistake. He forgot to let his pit crew know that I don't actually need tires. So that should be interesting too, though. Letting his pit time be a little bit longer. So about 24 seconds in the pits. Marcelo Reales about 5.3 seconds is what we've seen pretty average. A lot of these guys if they're just going in for fuel. So definitely we'll have to catch up with Quarantine, see exactly what was going on there.
Oh, there's a big spin there for Pedro Dean. He went to the back of Vasquez, had a bit of a half spin. Luckily, front wheel drive again coming to his rescue, plows the throttle and gets back straight, but loses a couple of positions to Soriano and Villarreal. So a mistimed move there. Vasquez got away with that one though.
Man, just like that could have definitely ended up a lot worse than it did. So luckily, Pedro Dean still able to hold on to fourth place, but he may have the pain. As he goes right into the back bumper of Diego Villarreal. And we have another couple incidents right there. It looks like Fabrizio Malziti right there getting spun around, now dropping position after position, as well as we have here a few more cars. Looks like Lozano as well. The safety car is there, man. Not sure if the safety car might have to come out after that one, but this is AMX. We don't need any safety cars out here. We let the drivers just do what they do. But man, already a bit of chaos going out here in lap number 6.
Yep, and a couple of drivers involved in that one, including Gaston Kulhavi getting involved in the wars a bit later after that. But we might just have a full screen replay of what happened there in that final corner kerfuffle.
As we can see right here, the drivers going in, and the number 119, gets into Ayrton Royman. So the 119 out there of Fabrizio Balziti just turning really hard, as well as a couple other drivers. We'll see who else gets involved in this incident, forcing everyone to go wide out there as Balziti tries to get back on the track. An unsafe rejoin right there into the number 8 of Mauricio Lozano. So, Lozano's not too happy about that one.
No siree, and he is the one that got shafted the most out of all of that because he was he was the innocent bystander, just wanting to go by, but he found that there was a guy in front of him in his way, recovering from the incident, just crashing into the side of him as Hero MP3 has some choice words laying out to Balziti there, but also a bit of, well, not to say blame, but questions have to be asked about Reutemann's involvement in that one. He literally was diving on the inside as there's a collision in the pit lane too between Araujo and Demori. So Demori goes through, but Araujo misses his pit box. Now he has to reverse. In real life, that will be a disqualification. It looks as though it is fuel only, and Demori misses his pit stop as well as Araujo as well. What is going on here? I have no idea.
So just like that, and of course we see the jack stands go up for him as well. So definitely not only chaos on the track, but chaos going into the pits. We knew this was going to be a bit crazy coming out into Snetterton out here today, but I didn't expect it to be going into the pits. So these drivers all the way not trying to give up any time, even when they have to go into the pit lane. But right now, so far, lap number 9 is still Aaron Vasquez atop the leaderboard, followed by Toby Soriano in second and Diego Villarreal in third place. But like we said, the first of the drivers, we have Gaston Culavi, Marcelo Reales of the drivers in the lead that have already taken their pit stop.
Yep, but crucially though, as a couple of comments are coming in, Rojan thinks, I think more like Nigel Mansell things, because Mansell was one of those guys that did miss his pit box, and then he was actually reversing into his pit box only to get disqualified and proceed to take out Ayrton Senna in 1989 in Portugal. So that's a precedent set there, but luckily in iRacing there's no disqualification if you reverse your pit box. There's more actions going on to that really tight hairpin, and in these front-wheel drive TCR cars they don't like that one bit. That was Bobby going on the inside of Lipa, which compromised his exit and allowing Blaine to come through.
So here we go, a lot of side-by-side action going on right here. Of course, Dino Filippo, who we got to see take a win earlier on at Silverstone, now trying to do his best to get out of the middle of the pack. This might be a good time for him to hit the pits, Amir, so we'll have to see if he's caught up in traffic, if he's going to go for that. We've seen Quarantine Guinez go on early, the first person in the pits, so definitely these guys looking like they might still have to get a bit of fuel out here. Some of them, the jack stands went up, not sure if that was on purpose or not. Their pit crew just saying, hey, we're going to throw you some new tires anyway, whether you like it or not. But right now still lap number 11, and Aaron Vasquez, what we got to see in previous seasons, already a 2.5 second gap over second place of Diego Villarreal. And Diego Villarreal trying to fight off Pedro Dean, Kobe Soriano, and we have right here Jackson Asenge battling off Gael Valero. So like we mentioned earlier, we knew it was going to be a lot of battles on this short circuit out here today. We'll have to see if Gael Valero, who of course back-to-back champion of coming out here yesterday in AMX5, looking to see if he can make it another championship out here in AMX5, and you know he wants to have multiple championships this season.
Yeah, certainly, and a lot of other next level racing goodies that have come his way apart from the cash, which I think he could open up his own sim racing shop from his house after this with the amount of prizes that he's won for the last couple of seasons. But you know, no complaints on his part. He knows how to drive on iRacing and win some dough along the way. He'll definitely be just trying to ramp up a championship challenge. But at this point in time, his biggest challenger right now has to be, no doubt, Dino Filippo, because he is on form, as well as some of the other Argentines that have been nipping at his heels for the last couple of seasons. Meanwhile, one of those Argentines, Tobias Soriano, behind Pedro Dean. And again, we'll have to reiterate the point. Argentina and Brazil, two great sporting nations going head-to-head here, not only in the real world through football, but also in sim racing. And it's certainly the case here that the two countries, great respect for each other in this particular context, but no love lost between both of them either.
We can see right here too, as well as everyone that wants to catch up on who's taking their pits, what the timing is, all of the information. Periodically, we will be having that QR code pop up on screen to scan for the live timing. But back out here on track as well, we can already see, so still more than half of the field has not taken their pit stop yet. Like we said, AMX10, there is not a mandatory pit stop, but these drivers are running out of fuel out here today. So definitely been hitting that. That's come into a lot of strategy out here. You see a lot of people, a lot of fans out there. Bora Brazil for sure. We love seeing everyone out here cheering on the drivers. But we'll have to see, will the Brazilians be able to get into that top spot? I mean, that looks like so far right now it may be Aaron Vasquez, as we can see Juan Blanat going into the pit lane. Let's see what his pit stop time will be. Not getting the jack stands up, so just getting the quick 4.3 seconds. So far, one of the quicker pit stops that we've seen out here from Juan Blanat.
Oh yes, definitely. So again, there's a big difference between how long the guys are on the jacks and versus how those guys are going splash and dash. 4.3 seconds compared to 4.1 for Kulhavi, so he probably didn't take as much fuel compared to Guinness and Reutemann. That's a full almost half a minute. Oh, there's a bit of an incident further behind there. Missed it for a second because of looking at the pit times. Pedro Dean onto the grass.
Yeah, just seen that. Just Pedro Dean just getting off. Luckily, he's able to rejoin and kind of hold on to another position, not giving up too much space, too much time. Definitely what we seen earlier, the incident going on. Absolutely safe rejoin. So definitely glad to see that. But right here, we see Jackson Asenge now having to fight off Gael Valero, a time as old as AMX itself. We've seen these two guys battle it out almost every single weekend. I feel like if these two are in a race, it's going to be a back and forth between them. No matter what, it is bound to happen. It is inevitable.
Yeah, but again, well, how long they can keep this up? Because we saw last season, Resende was just cruelly close to actually getting a home win in Sao Paulo, but Valero with that slingshot move out of Junsao on the way to the start-finish straight in Brazilian Formula 3 race that time, that was a doozy. Just nipped it by 300ths of a second, but fair play to the both of them. They had a clean fight that time, unlike what happened here between Pedro Dean and I'm not sure who was involved in that incident as well between himself and Dean. Might have been Fabi, or no, can't see which car was that just now, but whatever it is, let's hope the drivers will settle themselves a bit, because they're not even past the halfway point. We are still well a ways away from completing this first heat.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Like I said, only about 12 minutes have gone by since the beginning of this race. Like I said, right now, lap number 16, Aaron Vasquez still getting a significant lead now, almost 3 seconds. So he's about 2.7 seconds over Diego Villarreal. We've got to see so far out here the TCR cars at Silverstone and back here, Diego Villarreal doing a great job of defending off. But we'll have to see though, because where it mattered most was during the pit stops. Unfortunately, that put Diego Villarreal back I know you mentioned Amir earlier on in Silverstone. Ooh, right here, Gael Valero and Jackson Essenje getting into it. A little bit of contact, sending Essenje out to the outside and leaving the door wide open for Dino Felipe to also gain a place on that. So great for Valero, but unfortunately, like we said, we might have to see some of these questionable overtakes, what the stewards have to say about that. So once again, out there, for those of you who don't know, we do have this officially sanctioned with the KARA, a member of the FIA. So we have professional racing stewards out here to make sure these drivers are keeping it clean, and when they don't, they make sure to look into these incidents. So we'll have to see, like I said, if the stewards have anything to say about that after the race. But for right now, that will leave Gael Valero in that 5th place position.
Yeah, the CARA stewards, the Korean Auto Racing Association, might have a look into some of these. But again, that's in hindsight after this. But at the heat of the moment, I think some of those moves may have actually been done by virtue of the fact that they were actually put into there, or misjudgment. So again, we can't really fault the drivers. The circuit itself does really offer up these kind of crazy maneuvers that happen. But at the end of the day, the stewards will definitely decide that one, as now, in between the drivers who have pitted and the ones who haven't, it's a bit of a mixed bag right now. But it looks as though, because Juan Blainat has actually pitted the earliest, he is actually the leading driver among those guys who have pitted.
And here we see, so definitely Dino Felipe putting the pressure onto Gael Valero. Of course, both of these guys setting blazing fast lap times. We got to see these two battling it out as well at Silverstone. Now over at Snetterton, we'll have to see exactly who comes out, as now, like we said, we're pretty close to about the halfway mark coming up now. So these drivers definitely putting it in. Lap 19 out of 38. So now Dino Felipe, I think this is about the same time that we've seen these drivers kind of start turning up the heat a little bit at Silverstone, right around the halfway mark. They start saying, all right, it's time to stop playing safe. I have a few more positions I need to make up. And especially these drivers out here that still have not taken their pit stops, definitely going to be one of the biggest factors. So we have about 11 drivers out there right now still that have not taken that pit stop.
Yeah, different set of races right now. Again, it's kind of like I did reiterate earlier, a short over race where it could get a bit crazy in terms of strategy. Some of the drivers will stay out, while others who are pitted will bide their time waiting for the right time to strike late in the race. It is that kind of race, isn't it, where we don't know which strategy is optimal, but for those drivers who have made it work for now, they're reaping the rewards early, especially for the likes of Blaina. He's leading the way among the guys that have pitted, while Vasquez, up in front, out of our sights, is still leading the way. 3 seconds ahead of Diego Villarreal, would you believe it? So if Villarreal can hang on to this might be great. But Tobias Soriano has other ideas. He's going to come through on the inside and take the position away from Villarreal.
And just like that, just a beautiful move going on from there. Villarreal, unfortunately, now 3rd place. Gonzalo Fabi almost taking that position away from him too. So we know Fabi looking like he has the pace already up 10 positions over Villarreal. So we'll have to see exactly if he's able to get on podium. But like we said, none of these drivers up front have taken their pit stop either. So that's definitely going to play into the strategy of that. And Amir, I like how you mentioned oval races earlier on, because we do have a few oval races coming up this season. So we had a lot of stuff. I know last season we had NASCAR oval race. We got to see Max Verstappen and nearly the entire Team Redline join in there. So that one seemed like it was practically Team Redline versus the rest of AMX. But right here, Gonzalo Fabi, a beautiful move over Diego Villarreal. Like we said, able to get now onto podium contention.
Once again, Villarreal didn't put up much of a fight, but I think he's minding his own race here right now. And if he's saving enough of his fuel and tires, you never know. He might just be able to sneak in with an improbable win, which will be really popular among the guys in AMX in the comment section, and certainly those who have been sticking with him through thick and thin throughout these few seasons that we had in AMX.
Definitely. And so now with that action going on, but back to what I was saying, with some of the oval races we have coming up this season, we have one of them. Should be very interesting to see a lot of these drivers out here. We're going to be hitting the dirt, so a dirt oval race in AMX should be very interesting to see what these drivers can do with that. Of course, that's going to be an AMX 0 race coming on later in the season, as well as one of what I think is going to be my favorite race coming on. We're going to be in the current Dallara IR18 Indy cars, heading out to Daytona Speedway to run the oval. So we're not going to be in the not the typical Indianapolis oval that we see time and time again, or Iowa. We're going to be seeing these guys out at Daytona, so that should be an interesting race, as well as another NASCAR in the second half of the season back at Atlanta Motor Speedway. But out here looks like Diego Villarreal, he finally hit the pits, now into 9th place, so definitely still leading the drivers that have hit the pits so far. So and as soon as I say that, Juan Blay not able to overtake him. But now back to the front of the pack, we have Gonzalo Fabi holding on to that 3rd place position. About almost a 3-second gap still between Aaron Vasquez in 1st and Toby Soriano in 2nd.
Yeah, certainly, but Soriano seems to have a bit between his teeth. He was the guy on the charge right now. So 0.4 of a second gain that time around may not sound much, but in a short circuit like this, wow, 0.4 is a lot. So Vasquez may have actually had some traffic along the way, as most of the drivers have actually found out. Every way you go, you're going to meet traffic, as more and more drivers are going to come into pit lane. Here, we saw Villarreal coming in. Now a few others as well are actually coming in and out of the pit lane in a frenetic race, and we still have about 14 laps to go here.
So we'll have to see, like we said, some of these drivers already taking advantage, being a little bit more aggressive now that we're in the back half of this race. So we'll have to see here. Another great driver, though. Still quite a bit of a gap for Jackson Ascensions, who has a lot of pace to make up. We might just see him ensuing on the battle for 6th place. So with almost 5 seconds to make up, I think Jackson really is just going to worry about trying to hold off Pedro Dean and Victor Miranda behind him. Of course, Jackson SNJ, Victor Miranda, the 2 Delinta Esports drivers. We've seen these guys kind of get caught up in incidents yesterday in the F4 cars, so hopefully they'll be able to keep it clean. And we know a lot of these guys on comps together, working together. And speaking of working together, we also got to see Silverstone, Aaron Vasquez, and Gael Valero. The first time I believe we've seen them in AMX working together as teammates. So in previous seasons, we've seen them battling it out, opposite teams, different kinds of teams going on. For this season, they are both on Apex Racing teams, so absolutely helped them out. Out here, they're a little bit more spread out, so I think Aaron Vasquez just trying to do what he's done in previous seasons, get in 1st place, try to get as much of a gap, but that gap is starting to shrink. It was almost 3 seconds a few laps ago. Now it's just under 2.5 seconds, so it might almost be time for Aaron Vasquez to try and get a good pit stop and come back out here on the field.
Yeah, let's see if he can do so. But Soriano is actually chipping at his lead by about, and on an average, 0.3 to 0.4 a lap. That is crucial, though, because if Soriano does have this pace right now, even before the pit stops, he can actually just catch up to Vasquez even before we can do that.
And so here we go. So, like I said, the battle will ensue in the middle of the pack, but the battle is heating up now. Gonzalo Fabi making up great pace over Toby Soriano. So both of these drivers slowly catching up to Aaron Vasquez in the lead. I think right now, I'm not sure if Vasquez is starting to feel the pressure just a little bit. Of course, he's been setting some blazing lap times out here so far in heat number 1. Although he doesn't have the fastest lap time, that is held by currently Corentin Guinez, who is in towards the back of the pack. Aaron Vasquez still doing what he can, but I think one of the big things we've seen is out here in the TCR cars, when you're trying to push these things to the absolute maximum grip they can, that's really going to start eating up those front tires. So I really think that may be what's happening now in the last half of the race. We're really starting to see Aaron Vasquez with a little bit more tire wear compared to Toby Soriano and Gonzalo Fabi.
Yep, but it looks as though they're not pitting just yet, waiting for them to do so after this, because after that we'll bring some of those guys who have pitted before right into play. We'll wait and see first. As for somebody in the comment section, I think, yep, Exhaust Sniffers asked, what, the race? Well, think of like buggies, Baja type cars racing on dirt. Yes, we have those kind of things on iRacing. They have their own dedicated circuits. Or in sprint cars, where they literally all Indy cars, but they have literally converted it to something different, where they still maintain the front engine specifications, but with more driver protection, like a safety net, roll cage, and all that jazz, bigger tires, yeah, you name it. Those kind of dirt races where you go sideways to be faster.
So out here, and speaking of that, I mean, we have also a dirt race coming up, so I think this may be I mean, quite a while since I've been here seen. We're going to have a Pro 2 truck race coming on later on in the season as well. So like we said, definitely going to be interesting seeing a lot of these guys. Of course, some of these races out in AMX 0, some out in AMX 5. AMX 10, we're going to be having our world tour of the TCR cars. Like we said, so far we've been out here all day long, out in 2 of the best racetracks in the UK. But the next time around, we're going to be moving it off to Italy. So definitely stay tuned for that one as well. Italy, known for some of the most beautiful landscapes, some of the best racetracks in the world. Of course, home to Ferrari. We got to see just recently out at Monza, the Italian GP in real life. Things going on over there, but back to today's race out here. We are lap 30 of 38. The gap is closing on now between Aaron Vasquez, Toby Soriano. Now nearly cut the gap in half, about 1.5 seconds from a few laps going. Ooh, a move right there on the inside. Things are getting a bit dicey between Pedro Dean and Victor Miranda. So we'll have to see if Pedro Dean is able to return the favor or if he's going to start losing time on Victor Miranda.
Well, that was Brazilian on Brazilian action there for a second with Miranda barging his way through to overtake Pedro Dean, and he had every right to because he had some move on the inside. The collision may have looked a bit more dramatic than it should be because, again, that was such a tight hairpin. You got really nowhere to go apart from if you can lunge one on the inside and just take that position away from the guy in front. That's exactly what Miranda did. But it looks as though Dean didn't take that too lightly. He's flashing his lights. He wants to get back at to one of those 2 Delinte cars and try to gain the position that he lost.
And so we'll have to see is right here, of course, the 2 Delinte esports drivers. I'm not sure if they're going to start battling it out themselves. Of course, like we've seen Victor Miranda, Jackson essentially was leading for quite a while over Victor Miranda, but I think just Victor Miranda might just have a little bit better pace out here, as we got to see from some of these laps. Take a look at their best lap times. They're very, very close. Jackson Asenge this heat so far has set a faster lap time. So, like I said, not really any team orders, but there we can see is the instant between Dantas and Reales. Just, man, that corner has been getting so many drivers out here today.
Yeah, especially given the fact that the tight radius of that corner with front wheel drive, it is not the best way to get around it, isn't it? A rear wheel drive car, maybe you can just about get away with it, but front wheel drive car, you just have to take such a wide radius to come through, and if you're by yourself. But at the fact that you got other drivers around you trying to overtake you, that becomes quite a game of chicken, isn't it? Whether or not you can actually get away with it or you get really shafted out. And for a lot of drivers, that has been the latter. They get shafted out when they give too much room on the inside.
So here we see now as looks like a little bit of battling going on between Toby Soriano and now Gael Valero getting in the mix, Dino Felipa. So like I said, a lot of these guys right now trying to fight just to get onto the podium with about 5 laps left out here. So as we are getting closer and closer to the end of Heat 1, we still have to see as a lot of these guys have yet to take their pit stop. Like we said, you know, I probably sound like a broken record right now, but pit stop is not mandatory. However, a lot of these drivers have been running low on fuel, so that's the big reason we've seen a lot of them hitting the pits. So some of them looking like a good time so far in the low 4 seconds for a really good pit stop. Fastest we've seen 4.1 from Gaston Coulavi. So having the fastest pit stop time out here, we'll have to see if that pays off for him, as him and Juan Blanat are in the lead for drivers that have already taken their pit stop.
And behind Kohavi, here's Bruno De Carmo, who's been in the wars throughout the entire heat. Just look at that. His front bumper has been completely clean off his car. He's been racing with just the splitter to help with the aerodynamics throughout his entire heat. And I'm amazed that he can still keep up here right now. But credit to where credit's due, he's done so quite well. And a couple of people have commented on his hairstyle, whether or not that has helped with aerodynamics. But it looks as though shedding some front bumper has certainly helped with saving a bit of weight and getting the car through the corners. He is behind Kohavi, who has stopped here. So if the Karma was to stop now, he's going to tumble his way through the order. And certainly, same thing for these guys here up in front, where Aaron Vasquez is still about 2 seconds ahead. But Soriano, Valero, and Felipa, if they start fighting, that's going to give Vasquez a clear run to the win.
And speaking of the battle scars on some of these drivers, so already Araujo is out of the race. We have Simon Demori as well as Fabrizio Balziti sitting in the pit stop still. So like I said, I think the incident they got into earlier on unfortunately just put them out of the heat. So they're going to be starting from the back of the grid for heat number 2. But right here, we see Gael Valero trying to make any moves. As you know, the clock is ticking. It is about to strike midnight for him out here at the ball is closing. Definitely going to see if Gael Valero is going to be able to make an upset over Toby Soriano and even possibly Aaron Vasquez. But like I said, still the top 7 drivers still yet to take their pit stop. So we'll have to see if anyone tries to go for an undercut, if everyone is going to try and wait till the last possible minute. Also, when we've seen the gap kind of starting to close on Aaron Vasquez, I'm not sure if he may have also been trying to fuel save, say, you know what, I might be able to just eke out every single liter of fuel out of this car for all 38 laps. So with just a couple laps left to go, Amir, we'll have to see if that strategy is going to pay off. Will Aaron Vasquez pit, or was he really saving fuel? And alongside these other drivers right now as we go door to door, Toby Soriano, Gael Valero.
Yeah, you might be right there, Kevin, because he is actually maintaining pace up in front. So he might have been fuel saving along that period where he was being chased. But right now, he looks as though he is going to be safe because he is on the penultimate lap. He stops now. That's the end of his race. Whereas Valero and Soriano are going door to door here. Soriano leaves space for Valero on the inside, which in turn will allow Felipe to come through. That's 2 for 1. But we're on the final lap. Vasquez has judged this to absolute perfection.
So with the white flags out, here we go, folks. Lap 38 of 38. Your leader, Aaron Vasquez, over Gael Valero in second. Dino Felipe in third. Definitely with a 2.5 second gap. Right now, we're going to see, does Aaron Vasquez have enough fuel to secure the win out here in heat number 1? These drivers trying to do everything that they can, pushing it from lap number 1 all the way to the checkered flag. And now, with just a quarter of the lap left, we're going to have to see, this is where it is all going to come down to, as well as Gael Valero trying to make sure he can hold off Dino Felipe as well. So here we go, folks. This is what it's all about right now. Still holding off that inside line, being very defensive. Aaron Vasquez in front, looking like he will come home with the win out here in heat number 1. These drivers, huge congratulations. Aaron Vasquez in first, Gael Valero able to hold off in second, and Dino Felipe with the last minute move able to get into third place. Unfortunately, Toby Soriano just a couple laps down off of the podium.
Yeah, he really was just the unfortunate victim of circumstance in that final couple of laps, especially on that penultimate lap onto the final lap. He left so much room on the inside that allowed Valero through and Felipe through. He would have gotten a podium, but alas, it's not to be. Vasquez, though, beautifully judged up in front, almost uncontested throughout the entire way. He had a bit of a scare with the gap closing in, but regardless, it's a win for him, and he'll have to do it all over again here from P15.
So definitely Aaron Vasquez out here making it look too easy for heat number 1. Again, able to get his way up through the pack all the way into first place. But now he's going to be 15 positions, on that 15th position spot in the grid. So we'll have to see as he's able to see BenQ session winner Aaron Vasquez, Gael Valero in second, Dino Felipe third, Toby Soriano in fourth, Victor Miranda fifth, Jackson Ascenje sixth place, Pedro Dean in seventh, Juan Blanat eighth, Gaston Kulabi in 9th, Corentin Guinez 10th, Diego Villarreal in 11th, Bruno De Carmo 12th, Marcelo Reales in 13th, Mauricio Lozano 14th, and Evandro Dantas to round out your top 15 reverse grid. Unfortunately, we see the likes of Ayrton Reutemann, Gonzalo Fabi, Fabrizio Balziti, see Miguel Araujo, Simone Demore, those guys unfortunately getting out of heat number 1. So we'll have to see who makes it back to the grid for heat number 2. Of course, Evandro Dantas now sitting in that pole position. Let's see if he can capitalize on that.
Yeah, certainly. And we're getting it almost immediately to heat number 2. We're on the way immediately here, Kevin.
So here we go. Great start from some of these drivers. But there we have Reales now trying to go side by side with him, trying to peek, and we'll see who gets the move onto the next turn. Back and forth, it's too wide near the whole top. Oh, contact already right there, going off, going wide, unfortunately smushing it, and a few drivers off the track. We see bumpers flying out there in the back of the field. Looks like Pedro Dean getting caught up in that one as well.
Lozano as well getting involved, and there's further after that with a few cars involved, including one of the Delinte cars. That looks like Kohab. Oh no, that's a close one as well. Lozano nearly hitting the side of this Resende.
And just like that, so like we said again, what we've seen in Silverstone, a relatively clean start to the race out of Silverstone. We got to see that out here. Snetterton too, with just a few incidents, but now already a huge incident going on, a bunch of drivers getting caught up, and some of these guys already hitting the pits. So unfortunately, so many of these guys that we had prospects to be winning it out here today, unfortunately getting sent all the way into the pits, especially out here. Very unfortunate for some of the Delinque Esports drivers, looking like Victor Miranda, Jackson SNJ, like I said, Gaston Culabi, Gael Valero, also unfortunately having to end up in the pits right now. So these guys getting those damages repaired as we go to a full screen replay, see exactly what unfolded out here. So we can see right there, ooh, it started with the deleted drive right there. These guys, it looked like a bit of a checkup there from Evandro Dantas, and just everyone, just like dominoes, one after another, just into each other. Some of these guys had nowhere to go, tried to check up to avoid it, but unfortunately, there's multiple drivers just getting rear-ended and sent right into the pits.
And one of them was Gael Valero. He has actually, unfortunately, left this race, and that leaves the door open for any of those other drivers to pick out the pieces. But really, though, that all started because of Bruno De Carmo. Actually, incidentally, in between all of that, he actually hit the side of Mauricio Reales, and that really opened up the door for Pandora's box of sorts, of all sorts of incidents afterwards. Jackson Rossetti got stuck in between a bit. I think most of the Delinque guys were involved in that incident, and it just snowballed from there. Every other driver was just taking up.
And so we'll have to see there. That leaves great position, though, for Aaron Vasquez to make it a back-to-back win out here. Of course, we got to see out in qualifying, Corentin Guinez was the fastest qualifier, so we're not going to put him out of this one either, as he's currently in second, battling out Bruno De Carmo. So Bruno De Carmo already dropping down into third place. So we have Reales, Guinez, Bruno De Carmo out here. Only lap number 4, and the carnage has already ensued. It's been absolutely crazy. As now we've seen another position, Bruno De Carmo. I'm not sure if he has some damage to his vehicle there. Like you said earlier on, a bit of a bump going on. So now Aaron Vasquez able to get up in third place.
Yeah, because just now, Reales, while coming to the hairpin, we were exiting the replay. He hit the back of the Carmo, probably as a sign of, well, here's a bit of afters and retaliation for what happened earlier. He left it open, got whacked, and the Carmo just lost so much momentum from that lap that it allowed Guinez and Vasquez to get by him. So Reales now is the leader, Guinez second, Vasquez third, and I would not want to be in Reales' shoes right now. It's such an unenviable position to be a part of, to be chased by after two really fast guys. And here is what happened in that first lap. A few after drivers here getting involved. That's actually, Valero really close to get taken up by Kohavi, but he spears across the track and into the side of Pedro Dean, which finished off his car.
And unfortunately, just like that, once you get into the grass, it is all over. You are just a passenger at that point, as we can see a couple more drivers going off in the background of that replay too. So definitely it's hard to see that happening, but like they say, that is racing, especially when you have some of the best drivers out there pushing it to the absolute limits. That is bound to happen. But now one thing that honestly I'm going to be excited to see, let's see these two battle it out, Corentin Guinez and Aaron Vasquez. I have a feeling it's going to come down to one of these two to win heat number 2. Of course, Aaron Vasquez winning heat number 1 wants to make it back-to-back, but as well, Corentin Guinez coming away with the top qualifier as well as the fastest lap in heat number 1. Definitely has the pace to make it happen out here in heat number 2.
Yeah, I'm just lost for words right now that the amount of incidents that we had so far really have been quite nasty, isn't it? Especially at the start of this particular heat. How many drivers were involved in such crazy incidents? But again, it's par for the course, isn't it? Because such a small track with so many drivers funneling into what is basically very tight corners, it was bound to happen. But it's a sort of challenge that these guys will have to go put themselves through anyway. Plus, it's Tory car racing. Really argy-bargy stuff is the name of the game.
And one thing that should be interesting, a lot of those drivers that either locked up wheels, no matter what, just to get around that incident earlier on, I'm curious to see if that really put any, kind of flat spots in their tires, if that ate up their tire degradation a little bit more than they would wish it was. Like I said, it's just one quick incident. Usually we don't see too many after effects from happening, but definitely anything can happen. Ooh, a beautiful move right there. Bruno De Carmo just absolutely snaking it through the two other drivers, Gonzalo Fabi, Nino Felipe. Man, we didn't get a crash there, but that might have been a great replay just on that pass right there. But back to these guys. So we'll see Bruno De Carmo being a lot more aggressive out here. We can see an incident going on. Ayrton Reutman there in the picture-in-picture replay, trying to get the inside line, and unfortunately just getting clipped slightly. A little bit of a squeeze on the inside. I wouldn't say quite a dive, but he was definitely had two wheels trying to dip onto the inside, trying to make that move happen. And like we've said earlier, sometimes you try to force a move and it doesn't always go your way. So again, the racing stewards might have to look into that one, as well as many of the other incidents going on out here today. But as it stands right now, lap number 9, Reales in first, Guinness second, and Vasquez in third.
Yeah, that was Belziti involved that time with why Ulhavi got sent off completely. But regardless of that, we're watching right now what happened here. What would happen here if you try to actually put 3 cars together in a battle pack? Well, we got Reales, Guinness, and Vasquez going through. And we did say earlier, going narrow may not be the best idea to defend, but because of the tight nature of the circuit, it is actually advisable to do so that you can prevent the guy from diving on your inside. And for Reales, he's doing that again. Second consecutive is going narrow, but can he get it stopped in time? Or the answer might be 50-50 here right now, because there's the inside opening up for Valentin Guinness, and Guinness might actually get a run here. Can he actually get it through on the inside? Reales is side by side with him, and there we go. Guinness makes the move. Reales left the door open on the exit a bit too much.
And right there too, so we'll have to see as Aaron Vasquez now trying to sneak around the outside. Definitely, I think both of these drivers, I mean, they have the pace over Reales. I think it's still going to be Guinness, Vasquez, 1-2. Which order that they're going to finish in, I'm not sure. But right now, Reales is really going to have to put it. He's going to have to find an extra gear in that car, really try to find more grip than he's had all day long if he's going to want to hold on or get that top spot back. So right now, definitely going to be some great battles going on between our top 3, which unlike what we've seen in heat number 1, once Aaron Vasquez was at the front of the pack, he simply walked away with the win from there. So we'll have to see if that's going to be a repeat here. Looks like these drivers so far are having to battle it out just a little bit more. Like we said, 11 laps into this thing, these drivers are already pushing it quite hard. So, like I said, we'll have to see Aaron Vasquez, of course. We're used to seeing him in Drago Red from past seasons, now in that Apex Racing Blue. Definitely wants to put one on the board for his team, as well as seeing Gael Valero unfortunately getting caught up in that incident earlier on, sending it off into the grass, coming back into another driver. So Aaron Vasquez definitely putting in work, showing out here, making his team proud, making his country proud.
Yep, indeed. He's putting some real good driving out here today. And in Vasquez, you can get a double out of this, will definitely be pleasing for him. That first lap kerfuffle really was beneficial in getting him up to this far. Now, it's a case of whether or not he could finish the job. And in this particular case, he's probably not thinking about it right now. Still plenty of laps to go. 27 laps after this to the end. Well, I don't think he'll be thinking about, in fact, 26 laps after this. I don't think he'll be thinking about too much about the end game at this point. He's just here saving fuel, saving a bit of tires, waiting for the right time to strike.
And just like that, so a lot of these drivers like we've seen out here, Silverstone, we had quite a spread of vehicles out here. Looks like most of the drivers are in the Hyundai Veloster, so definitely coming into play a little bit, but nonetheless we have quite a few Honda Civic drivers. Of course, the top 2 in the Hyundai, in 3rd and 4th in the Honda Civic, so not too big of a differences out here today, especially a lot of these UK courses when we've been putting these guys definitely pushing their limits on the absolute tightest. And ooh, right there, Reales getting super close to the back of Guinness. So I think right now, Vasquez, I mean, it's hard to say because on one hand, you are towards the front of the pack, so you really want to just try and make it opportunistic. But the more that these 2 are going to be battling it out, the more space it's going to leave for everyone else to catch up, especially once people start taking their pit stops. Again, we didn't see some of these drivers, they were able to save fuel, get around the track without having to take a pit stop. So I'm sure that they're trying to do that again out here in heat number 2. But with how hard that they're starting to battle it out and how much they've been pushing it, I'm not sure if that's going to happen, Amir.
Well, we'll wait and see first if that is going to be the particular case. At this point, though, I think Guinness, after what happened in that first heat, is learning his lesson here. don't dive into the pits too early, otherwise you may end up in traffic and compromise your whole race. Or go for a new set of tires on the fronts and top out fuel, but costing yourself about half a minute here, especially on the short circuit where the lap is around 46 seconds on average. He is just thinking about controlling the pace from the front, and it looks as though he's doing just that. He's not really setting the timing sheets alight, but he is dictating the pace up in front, which is exactly what he wants. And right now, Reales, no way free just yet, along with Vasquez as well. They're actually just stuck there behind the Frenchman only for the time being. Let's see what happens after the halfway point.
And just looking at the results again from heat number 1, so Quentin Guinez did finish in 10th place. He was just over 26 seconds behind the lead. So like you said, the pit stop definitely did it in for him. We know from qualifying that he is the fastest out here in terms of pace, as well as setting the fastest lap the last heat. So we know, I think as long as he holds on to this, it's really giving him a nice buffer between Reales and Vasquez. So we'll have to exactly see what these drivers can do. But with being about a 26 gap in the finishing times from the last heat, I know we see when Quentin Guinez last heat went into the pits, unfortunately it wasn't just a splash and dash. We saw those jack stands go up and unfortunately led to a very long pit stop for him. So definitely learned his lesson from that one. And you may be right, Amir, I think these drivers may be out here until the last possible minute if they have to pit at all.
I don't think so. I don't think they're going to pit at all here because, again, with Guinez up in front, he's actually able to dictate the pace and not push himself too hard. He is probably doing exactly just that, not to actually go for broke. He's just biding his time, waiting for the other guys behind to probably try and do the overtaking maneuver and probably get themselves crossed up while he's up in front serenely here. So really then, this is exactly what Guinez wants. He can just be up in front and doing his own business.
Definitely, and from the onboard shot right here on the front bumper of Vasquez's car, we can hear a lot of these, especially after the long straight, kind of just coasting into the corners. So definitely these drivers already, like I said, mentioned, doing a lot of fuel saving just right here, hearing their engine kind of cut out a little bit. Not sure if they're doing the clutch coasting or not. I know that's kind of a bit of a tactic. You see, well, at least used to see a lot more in oval racing. I know iRacing is always constantly patching things, trying to get people to kind of not exploit some of these things that may not be as realistic as in real life. But nonetheless, a lot of these drivers still pushing it as hard as they can. I think that's a really good job out there, trying to find the balance between, okay, how do I get good, consistent lap times, but how do I save fuel? And that's why these guys are leading at the top of the pack. That's what leads them to podiums out here in AMX.
And on top of that is also trying to survive some of the carnage that does happen when you got so many drivers in such a tight and confined space to come through. And these guys were the ultimate survivors. They managed to go through relatively unharmed, and now they get to actually try to go safely towards the end of the race. As now, after this, we're reaching the halfway point. Will we be able to see the pace being picked up, or will Guinez just hang on to it? Our bet is the latter. He literally has no reason to just go for broke and just increase the gap. He can just stay where they are, wait for the other drivers to come by and do more of that. Especially is, look at that, Fabi and Vasquez were just at each other's door handles, and Fabi had to just force his way through. Vasquez was forced off the track. Now he's actually dropped the position and a couple of seconds behind the race leaders.
Yeah, so that's definitely putting Vasquez in a compromising position. Like we can see, we know he has the pace over Gonzalo Fabi. I think these drivers too, of course, just trying to fuel save like we mentioned, and unfortunately just Fabi trying to take advantage of that, pushing it. But I think, like we mentioned earlier, not sure if Vasquez, if he's going to get too aggressive back here, try to get that position back, or if he's just saying, all right, you know what, I see how aggressive Fabi's going to be. I'm going to just rely on potentially Fabi having to take a pit stop and Vasquez not having to. So, I mean, really just a lot of different strategies can be coming into play here. Of course, we're seeing some of the guys that back on track, still about a lap down. Juan Blenat, Lozano, Kulavi, Valero getting caught in that incident earlier on. We'll have to see too, like I said, some of these guys, we know they're on the comps with their teammates. Some of these guys just relying on the spotter from iRacing. Definitely can be very helpful whenever you're out here to have your teammates on comms with you, because sometimes you're just trying to focus on what is in front of you, just try to focus on the drive, not focus as much on the strategy. So I think sometimes that's where you get in your head a little bit. I know we got to speak a little bit to Gael Valero yesterday, and he's definitely one of those guys. He just focuses on what is in front of him. He's not worried about yesterday's race. He's not worried about what happened earlier. He's just worried about what is on moving forward. So we'll have to see, as I think that's definitely kind of the what we see a lot from a lot of the Apex Racing drivers. I mean, definitely to be on that team, I think that's a lot of kind of how they just do things out here on the track. Not worry about what happened earlier, just focus on what is in front of you.
Yeah, certainly. That's what Guinness is doing right now. He's focusing immediately on the next race because he did have, okay, granted he finished in the top 10 and had a very beneficial starting place for the second heat, but then again, he did pull the trigger early and go into the pits. That didn't work out, so he learned that the hard way. Now he's trying to do the exact opposite and just dictate the pace, control it from the front, and while at the same time saving his fuel, saving his tires, not having to do that dreaded pit stop, and just really only placing the car in the right places to prevent the guys from behind overtaking. And certainly he's done that well up to this point. Reales has no answer at this point.
So here we go. So we'll have to see, like I said, Reales as well, holding on pretty good, but like you said, with Guinness just absolutely commanding the pace out here, that really leaves room for the other guys. Just, okay, especially Reales, really focus on Guinness, kind of see his line, see what they're doing. But right here too, we do see Fabi definitely having a bit faster lap times. You know, whatever the strategy may be out here, still I expect it to go all the way down to the last several laps. I think last heat, out down to the last 5 or 6 laps, that's when some of these drivers kind of took it up a notch, really started getting a little bit more aggressive. So I expect to see that again out here for heat number 2.
Yep, certainly. As a few comments are coming below here, it's a pure test of driving skill, and just like what Site 815 said, a true battle of attrition, and only the strongest will survive. Certainly, in any championship that offers a reverse grid, that really does test your mental, doesn't it? If you can come out of that as a champion, you know that you're very versatile. So really, that's pretty much those sentences just embody what it's like to drive in this league. You really come out as best of the best if you can survive all of these.
So yeah, just like that, we'll have to see. I think things have settled down a little bit more. Now it's a bit more of a train just going on throughout each of these laps. But like I said, perfect time to just mention everyone that, hey, if you're watching at home, of course, we are in the very beginning of the season. We have plenty of tiers going on out this season. We got 4 tiers, as well as, take a look at the schedule. We're going to have a huge race at the end of the season, the biggest event that we've ever done. So make sure, again, be following all of our social medias, be heading over to the website, be keeping up with what is going on. That is probably one of the biggest things that, as more details emerge later on in the season, what's going to go on there, as well as, like we said, more AMX 0 races this season is right here. Ooh, in the middle of that, Juan Blanat doing a great job right there, overtaking Ayrton Reutemann. So Juan Blanat, although some of these drivers are in the middle of the pack, they're still pushing it super hard, still trying to get out. And Juan Blanat, one of those drivers that has taken a pit stop. So from here on out, I think he can really push it just to try and climb up any more places that he can on the grid.
Well, he was one of those guys that was leading the way. He did finish 8th in that first heat, so he's probably doing the exact same thing again by just using the pit stop to his advantage and trying to pick up the pieces that some of the drivers are falling by the wayside. Though, again, that's more of a brute force type of strategy, isn't it? To try and take it early and then hope that you could actually just gain some positions by overtaking it on track. That's the brute force effort, but may not yield the best results if those guys in front, like this particular group that we're looking at right now, are doing exactly what he doesn't want, which is saving their fuel and tires and just still maintaining overall the same pace up in front.
So we'll have to see now. So Dino Filippa also getting into the swing of things. I mean, really, Dino Filippa, of course, doing amazing out at Silverstone. Now coming out here, having, I want to say a little bit more trouble. Just, I think, again, it's coming down to a lot of strategy, that strategic thing, where at Silverstone, pretty much all of the drivers had to take a pit stop to get some fuel to finish the race. Out here, we've seen some drivers take it, some drivers not. So I think Heat 2 always makes things more interesting because there are some strategies that you thought maybe not possible. I know that might have been going through some of these drivers' minds of just, okay, I'm coming out here at Snetterton, we're coming out here knowing that we don't have the pace to be able to get in there, get a pit stop, and keep going. So I'm going to have to do whatever I can to be able to save fuel, save tires, and then either be really aggressive towards the start and save later on, or save early on and be really aggressive towards the end. So I think that's really, we're seeing now Quentin Guinez getting a little bit more pressure from Reales. So Reales starting to turn it up a little bit, saying, all right, you know what, maybe it's time to start making a move with the pressure on Guinez. Maybe if I push him a little bit more, then we'll have to see exactly if we'll have a drag race on our hands.
Well, not exactly a drag race into the line, because again, there's not enough straights here to have that kind of fast side-by-side finish. It's going to be whether or not Reales is going to be desperate to try and move on the last lap to take the win away from Guinez, and I think that'll be his very first win in AMX, unless I'm very much mistaken. But as soon as that comment came in, someone tried something on Guinez, Reales was just having a bit of a sniff, and once again doing the exact same thing, just shadowing Guinez coming through these corners. But at the same time, he's gonna have to look behind, because look, Fabi is also very close here, and Aaron Vasquez just a couple of seconds further behind as well. So really, if those guys start fighting, and Constantina, we're gonna get not just a three-way fight for the win, but a bigger 5 or even 6-way fight for the win.
And now seeing Aaron Vasquez, almost a 3-second gap between him and Gonzalo Fabi. That's very uncharacteristic of him. But again, like we said, he knows from winning heat number 1 of how crucial not getting into the throttle too much, not burning up all of that fuel. So now he's able to overtake again once Dino Filippo. But Dino Filippo looking to make the move again. I think right here, things definitely going to be getting heated up as we have the last final 10 laps going on out here. These drivers, we'll have to see exactly at what point do they flip the switch, do they start pushing it beyond what they've been doing it so far. So I think right now it's a little bit more that comes into play as well. Some of these guys that have a lot of experience in endurance racing, some of those you try to get a really good pace, not trying to really have too many pit stops. Of course, we have the top levels, especially in the iRacing officials, hitting that top split. A lot of these drivers out here today are in those top splits with their respective teams, really just doing what they can to show, hey man, this is why I am one of the best in the world. Definitely one of the best, some of the best racers out here in AMX, of course, being in the lead right now. So definitely rooting for Reales, like you said, Amir. This may very well be his first win out here in AMX. So, I mean, I think as much as we want, we have a lot of fan favorites out here that everyone wants to win. I think a lot of people always want to root for the underdog as well.
Yeah, certainly. I think a lot of people have voiced also their support for drivers like Reales to just upset the uppercut of the established order. And look at that. Case in point, Common coming in. Reales might try on the last lap. I think so, but again, he might have to actually do it in one of the corners that have the opportunity to do so, like the second corner, or if it was really do or die, try the final corner, but hope to high heaven that he does not cause a major accident that will take both of them out of reckoning.
And I'm looking at the driver cam of Dino Filippo there. You see the sun coming in. We've seen that before. There's a couple races last season where the sun coming in absolutely blinding him. I think since then he's installed some shades to make sure that they're closed. But right here, beautiful move right here. Dino Filippo overtaking Aaron Vasquez through the inside line. So like I said, I'm just not sure what's going on. Vasquez not really trying too hard to defend right now, but he knows it's lap 32 out of 38. Really just, I think he's torn right now. Like I said, as much as this is just a game of attrition, really the mental part out here, the mentality you have to be able to be extremely consistent and win at the same time. I mean, really trying to not give up too much space, but I think now Aaron Vasquez definitely starting to get a little bit more aggressive. You can see just the slightest bit of frustration and focus on his face, saying, you know what, all right, it's time to stop being chill. It's time to stop doing what I've been doing, and now time to turn it into overdrive and get these positions back.
Certainly, and well, let's just say because of the light, the gut light right behind, it's almost like the second coming, isn't it, for Dino Filippo, or rather the second win. He is picking up the pace here, but whether or not he can actually get onto the podium once again is another thing altogether, because it really does become paramount that he can actually chase after the guys up in front. As pit lane for Gonzalo Fabi, no, that takes one guy out of the equation. Now he's on the podium once again. But whether or not he can catch Reales or Guinness, that's another matter altogether. He's got 5 left to do so. I think it might just be a bridge too far.
So definitely we'll have to see again. Quentin Guinness pitting in the last heat. We'll have to see if he learned from the strategy, able to save enough fuel to make it out here. I think he's going to be cutting it really close with the pace, especially compared to Aaron Vasquez. Aaron Vasquez out here, I think, really focusing on the pace that he had, similar to heat number 1. So far, Dino Felipe able to overtake him. Now Bruno DeCarmo looking to make a move as well. So definitely putting a little bit more pressure. As now, move to the inside. Bruno DeCarmo going side by side now with Aaron Vasquez, trying to get it, and does slot right in front of him. But still looking at the drivers' faces, they don't look too concerned. They're still trying to just stay absolutely focused and into this race. So we'll have to see exactly what is going on there. Like I said, lap 35 of 38. Things are definitely about to get dicey, Amir.
Well, absolutely, Kevin. But it looks as though the battle up in front, it might have gotten off the boil a bit, because Guinness now is picking up the pace and is almost 2 seconds ahead of Reales. So Reales that cannot hold a candle to what Guinness is doing right now, because he saved enough fuel and with tires to just push it in the final 5 laps here. Meanwhile, Felipe, though, he managed to get by Vasquez, but now he has to deal with Bruno DeCarmo. And DeCarmo, we know how much of a determined driver he can be in close quarters combat. Well, let's see how he's going to do it here in the final couple of laps.
And here we see, so of course, Quentin Guinness getting the fastest in qualifying. Aaron Vasquez taking the win in heat number 1. We're going to have to see, as we're just a couple laps away from seeing who is going to take the win out here. It's looking very promising for Quentin Guinness. Like you mentioned, starting to pick up the pace just a little bit now. Of course, not holding on the fastest lap this time around. That is going to Guy Alvalero as it stands. Guy Alvalero still with that unfortunate incident at the very beginning of the race, now holding on all the way into that 15th position. So Alvalero being absolutely dominant yesterday in AMX5, having a little bit of trouble out here today in AMX10. Like I said, a lot of these just unlucky for so many drivers coming out here. But here we are, folks, lap 37 of 38. Your leading order, Guinness, Reales, and Felipe.
Yep, and someone did say that we know how much fuel Bruno DeCarmo is running. Well, because he's actually streaming right now to quite a number of people in his audience, so they can tell what's happening with his race. But I think, judging by the way he's going right now, he should be able to do this race without stopping. But for Guinness, as he turned up the wick, Reales has no response to that. It looks as though Guinness is going to take and rebound to take a second heat win.
Absolutely. So we'll have to see, like I said, out here exactly as we come to the final lap. The white flag is almost out. Quentin Guinness definitely going to push as hard as he can on this lap. So it's going to come down, everything right down to here. Lap 38 of her 38, heat number 2. Quentin Guinness already with a 2.6 second lead ahead. I think this is very much in his favor out here, Amir. I have no doubt that he'll be able to do this absolutely amazing run. So let's get back into it and see exactly what he's able to do.
Well, ditto to that, I think Guinness has done just enough. I'm looking at Bruno DeCarmo's stream as well. Thanks for the tip off there. I didn't see just now when I was looking at the stream, but I didn't know that we could actually see the fuel as well. He is running about 1.5 laps in it, but regardless of that, he is going to come through the line while Guinness comes out of the final corner to take a heat 2 win on top of being the fastest qualifier. Second is Reales. Well, a podium would do nicely for him. He won't mind that one bit. Felipe third, DeCarmo with enough fuel to cross the line in fourth, and much to the delight of the Brazilians watching through for him. And then Soriano fifth. That rounds it top 5 as the rest of the field now will be coming through to cross the line. Lozano thinks about diving on Dantas, makes it, and takes away P11 from Evandro Dantas. The rest of the field come by. Vasquez, Bobby, Belzini, Blainat, and Villarreal run out your top 10. Villarreal with a good result there.
Yeah, so it's great to see a lot of these drivers, what they're able to do. Of course, a lot of these guys out there. Big congratulations to Quentin Guinness. Like you mentioned, top qualifier. Unfortunately, had a pit stop that sent him way far back all the way to 10th place in heat number 1, and coming out here, able to take it back, redeem himself, get that top spot on heat number 2. Aaron Vasquez, again, not having the best qualifying, but able to take advantage of it in heat number 1 with that reverse grid, holding on to the top spot, but unfortunately, just not quite having the pace out here in heat number 2. But still, great racing from all of our drivers, and that's going to set it out there. Corentin Guinez, your Ben Q session winner. Out here, we got in second place Marcelo Reales, which doing great out here. Like we said, a face we don't see quite as often as all these other guys. Dino Filippa in third place. We got Bruno De Carmo in fourth, Toby Soriano in fifth, Aaron Vasquez coming in sixth, Gonzalo Fabi seventh, Fabrizio Balziti eighth. Ninth place goes to Juan Blenat. 10th place, Diego Villarreal. 11th, Mauricio Lozano. 12th place, Evandro Dantas. 13th, Ayrton Reutemann. 14th, Gaston Culavi. 15th, Gael Valero. And 16th, Simone de Mori. 17th, Pedro Dean. 18th, Victor Miranda. A lot of these guys, unfortunately, like we've seen, getting into an incident, having to retire. Below that, Jack Desenje, and we have Miguel Arahu. Looks like he retired from this race. But of course, Gael Valero, although he got caught up in that incident early on, was able to come back, set the fastest lap time. So we'll have to see where everyone sits after that on the final results for the race. But definitely, Amir, I think there's a good chance that things may be looking up for Corentin Guinez out here in AMX10, as well as Dino Filippa going on earlier in Silverstone.
Yep, certainly. But Filippa, I think, was more towards being the form guy, to be honest. He did persevere through the carnage throughout the entire race here from Heat 1 and Heat 2. But at the end of the day, some drivers that really made their luck in that first heat, well, actually lack of luck for some, turned into a good luck for the others. And for Guinness, he managed to turn that around and get the second heat win, which definitely will be beneficial for him in the long run after this.
Definitely, and we're going to have to catch up with some of these drivers. Like we said, we didn't have any interviews after Silverstone just because we want to let the drivers get into here, start practicing for the second race of the day. Of course, the back-to-back TCR races out here, AMX10. We're doing a world tour this season, folks, out here in the TCR cars. Today, well, of course, the lovely UK. Next time around, we're going to be heading it off to Italy, and that's always some great racing. Of course, some of the best racetracks in the world as well in Italy. So we'll definitely have to keep up with that. But like we said, here in a few moments, going into the interview room with the drivers. But in the meantime, make sure to follow our social medias as well. Heading over to amxrace.com. You can join our Discord, kind of see what's going on. You know, every now and then we post some neat stuff in there too, or even just get to see the drivers kind of talking back and forth between races. But Amir, I think it's time that we head into the interview room and get to hear what happened from the driver's point of view.
Yep, and certainly, Kevin, one of the first guys we have to interview is the guy who won the second heat. Of course, was the fastest qualifier. Chapeau, Corentin. Well done.
Thank you.
With the win in the second heat. But before we get into that, we'll just ask how the first heat went for you, because you were one, or it was a bit far-fetched to get into the pits and get back into the race.
I mean, you had a small issue with the mic. I didn't really get the first part of the question.
Okay, sorry. Yes, so that first heat where you wanted to go into the pit lane, you think that was a good strategy, or you learned that the hard way and then put that into perspective into the second heat where no stopping was better?
Yeah, I mean, I tried to reproduce the first race at Silverstone. I thought that by pitting early, I could just avoid the fights at the beginning and then just try to have a better pace compared to the guys who were fighting. But actually, it was not a good idea, because you could make the race without pitting if you had a good fuel saving. And then I had the bug. I just basically unchecked the tires and I got the tire change. So I made a wrong call, and then I had also a bug with the tires. So yeah, definitely not the first hit I was hoping for.
Indeed, and that's why we saw in the pit lane times on the timing screen was about 22 seconds. But either way, you bounced back immediately, and by finishing the top 10, you had a better start. So it looks as though after that first heat, you actually controlled the pace, isn't it? Because you were saving your fuel and tires throughout that entire heat.
Yeah, I just tried to make sure I could make it safe at the beginning with the overtakes, but yeah, that was a big shunt. Like was turn 2, I believe, did the hairpin. So yeah, I gained I think 1 or 2 spots, and then I tried to make my way to the top. Was pretty clean, and then just tried to save a lot of fuel, but at the same time I just tried to not lose too much time, because then if I was dropping behind someone, it would mean I was basically on threat compared to the guys behind that could attack maybe myself later in the race. So yeah, just try to save quite some fuel, but at the same time not trying to save too much, because then I would have lost more than what I could gain.
Certainly, and controlling the pace at the front really did help. But on the other hand, do you reckon that you have some pace in you to actually just inch away even from the midpoint of the race?
Yeah, I think so, to be honest. So yeah, it was pretty good race overall, I think.
Yep, certainly. And once again, felicitations. We'll see you next week for more of the same, I would say. And best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you guys. See you next time.
Well, that's certainly one happy chappy there, with a very good second heat where he just controlled the pace up from the front, and really, once the ante got picked up, he really went all the way. Now, we might just be able to get yet another driver on board here for the next interview, or maybe... Yeah, we're looking at right now some drivers coming through. Just one guy on standby. It looks as though it's Bruno De Carmo, and he definitely will have some interesting takes on his races today. And in fact, we might have just gotten him on board right now for the interview. So, welcome aboard, Bruno. Probably not the best pair of races here today compared to what you had the day before. Talk us through what happened, in your opinion, in that first race, because it looked quite crazy.
Hi guys. Yeah, it was. I don't know, mate. I simply do not know how to drive the TCRs. They're so difficult for me. It's front wheel drive. That's not my thing. And to be honest, I think it's too dangerous. Put so many cars and those type of cars inside some real small tracks, and that's the recipe for disaster, in my opinion. And for me, it was contact everywhere, and I really did not enjoy that one. That was very unfortunately terrible results. I was just trying to survive the whole race.
Indeed, and in that first heat, you literally drove without a front bumper. So take us through, how does that feel like? Because you lost the bumper, but you still had the splitters. So did that affect your handling by any bit?
Yeah, I had a tilt steering wheel the whole race. It was pretty hard, but you know, you gotta focus. You gotta keep your head down and try to extract the maximum performance with the turbo car you have. Not much we can do.
Indeed, but you made the most of the situation, especially given the fact that you might have finished 12th in that first heat, but that second heat was way better, even with some of the collisions involved. So take us through how the strategy was like, because you might have contemplated with either you wanted to pit or you wanted to just do a no stop.
Yeah, for the second race, I was a bit better, I would say. I think I learned a lot from the car, because I just bought the Veloster. I had the Audi only, but the Audi, it's really bad in comparison with the other cars, so I had to try the Veloster. So it was just, I had to quick learn pretty fast, and the second race was better, and I think I learned the track and the car quite a bit, and the pace was kind of, yeah, I don't know. Those guys Quarantine is freaking fast. Gael, those guys are way ahead of me, and I just have to practice a little bit more.
Indeed, and your pace looked good in that second heat anyway. You were just about 3/10 off from the fastest lap of the race. So either way, you really have outdone yourself in adapting well to the car. So parabéns for that, and condolences for the first heat. But nonetheless, happy to have you on board again for the interview, and looking forward to see you for the rest of the season.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
So just like that, I mean, it's always great to hear when the drivers are on top, but I think a little bit different this time from Bruno to Carmo. Getting to hear a little bit more feedback, of course. I think we kind of knew it was going to be a bit chaotic going into the second race of the day, and definitely the drivers felt it. So some of them up on top, some of them not quite feeling the best out there. But nonetheless, I think it really shows just how much these drivers have to push, how much they have to adapt out here for not just the TCR races, but I'd say all of our AMX races, especially this season. That was really one of the biggest things that we wanted to see coming in here, is how much can we push these drivers? And so far, it's definitely seemed like we are trying to go above and beyond the limits, go outside the comfort zone for some drivers. Of course, there's always going to be those specialists, but Amir, I mean, I think overall a great start to the TCR vehicles, great start to AMX10. And what are you looking forward to mostly this season with AMX10?
Ooh, I think IndyCars at Daytona is going to be a nice proposition, isn't it? Because if you look through IndyCar history, we don't go to the high banks. The last time we did was Las Vegas in 2011, and we know how that turned out, of course. So we can't do that in real life, but we can definitely do high bank IndyCar racing in a sim. So we can get away with that one. Just flaunt the laws of reality for just a bit and have some fun along the way. So I can't wait to see IndyCars at Daytona. That will be something.
Absolutely. So I think we have the official results. Like we said, we know Corentin Guinez, of course, fastest in qualifying and winning that second heat. But it is, of course, going to be him taking the overall win out here and the second UK race of the day. Corentin Guinez up there, 35 points. Coming in second, of course, Dino Filippa, who won earlier on today. And in third place, Aaron Vasquez. Coming in fourth, we got Toby Soriano, Guy Alvalero fifth, Juan Blanot sixth, Gonzalo Fabian 7th, Bruno De Carmo 8th, Victor Miranda 9th, and Gaston Kulavi slotting in that 10th spot, making the top 10 of race number 4 of the entire season. And like I said, couldn't have asked for a better starting weekend for AMX season number 6, but definitely everyone out there, make sure not to go anywhere. Check the full schedule on the website. Follow our social medias. We're going to be back next week, kicking it off on Saturday, heading back to Germany. Going to be some great races there. Of course, AMX 0 open to everyone. So even if you just do iRacing for fun and you just say, hey, I want to get involved in some of these races, AMX 0 is a great place to start. And who knows, maybe every now and then you might see a commentator in some of these races. So we look forward to seeing that, as well as all of our drivers coming back here next weekend as well, bringing back AMX15, our mini endurance race for next Sunday. So tons of stuff going on. Everyone make sure to subscribe, follow on Twitch and YouTube. But signing off for the AMX team, we will see you all next time.